Joan Ledbetter is suing the mother of her grandchildren, Jacqueline Snowden, for the return of money she paid for a Pontiac Sunfire. Joan says Jacqueline refuses to give her the vehicle.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 531 on the calendar in the matter of Ledbetter versus Snowden.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Ledbetter, according to your complaint, the defendant is the former girlfriend of your son.
Correct.
They have 2 children together, although they are not married. It is your claim that you purchased a car from her and paid for it. She didn't deliver the car to you, and you want your money back.
Correct.
The defendant says that you never purchased a car from her, that you gave her some money to buy the children Christmas presents because she didn't have any money, and you're their grandmother and you wanted them to have a nice Christmas. So I need some background information. When did you allegedly purchase this car?
The checks were written on the 9th day of December.
December 9th, 2006.
Correct.
And where was Miss Snowden living in December of 2006?
I believe at that time she had already moved out of my home and was living back at her house.
Is that correct?
Which is at her parents'.
No, that is not correct.
When did you move out of the plaintiff's house back into your parents' house?
It was more towards the end of December.
Okay. And while she was living with your son at your house, how many cars did they have?
She had the Pontiac Sunbird, which is the one that...
So he did not own a car, so the only car that she had was the Sunbird.
Correct.
Did Miss Snowden work while she was living at your house?
Yeah, she worked at...
Oh, fine. Where were you working?
The first time I was working at Tumbleweed for over a year, and then...
Tumbleweed is what?
It's a restaurant.
What were you doing?
I was a cashier.
And who watched the children when you were working?
My mother did.
In December of 2006, where were you working?
Pep Boys.
How many days a week?
It depends, sometimes 5, sometimes 6.
And how would you get to work?
My vehicle.
The Sunbird?
The Sunfire. It's a Sunfire.
Sunfire. And what was your boyfriend doing at that time?
He was unemployed.
For how much of the year previous in 2006 was he unemployed?
Most of the year. Ever since our first child was born, even when I was dating him before the children was born, he hasn't had a job.
Why not?
Because his mother helps him out.
Why wasn't he working?
Because I've enabled him, because
okay,
both
that's
of them
enough.
have... Okay.
Don't say any more.
Okay.
So she was the one who was working?
Yes.
And what would he do all day?
I don't know. I was working also. So what he was doing,
well, the children
for sure,
were being taken care of by her mother.
Correct.
While she was working.
Correct.
Your son wasn't working.
Correct.
So why wasn't he taking care of his children?
I don't know. He didn't want to. He didn't have the patience to take care of his children.
All right, Miss Ledbetter. Now you can tell me about this story, about how you bought this car, this only mode of transportation that she has to get to work.
Okay. What she told me initially was that she had a van. I don't know how she got a hold of this van. I don't know for sure. But that it needed a transmission, and she really needed the van because of the 2 children. So Jackie wanted to get this van fixed, and she said she needed $500 for the transmission, which is what the van needed. So the agreement was I would purchase the Sunfire. I thought initially it was for $1,000. The kids told me on the 9th when we sat down to do this that I had agreed for $1,000 in addition to the $500 that she needed for the transmission. So she was going to get the transmission fixed on the van. The Sunfire, Sunbird, whichever, was overheating. Her father is a certified mechanic, so he was going to get that fixed for us. That's why I didn't take possession of it right away. And I also knew that she needed a vehicle to be able to get back and forth to work.
Okay, let me see the 2 checks.
You know, so I wrote initially for $1,000 because I thought that was the agreement. Then I rewrote another one. She asked me that night if I had any cash that I could give her. So I wrote her another check for $400,
For what?
and I gave her $100 in cash. So the total for the car was $1,500. And she was to get the car fixed and to have Christmas money. You know, that would also enable her to have Christmas money.
Okay, and then her father didn't fix the car, and she and your son had a falling out.
Correct.
Okay, let me hear your story.
Okay, the day of that, she had given me a check for $1,000 and a check for $400. She knew that her
Don't
son...
tell me what she knew. Just tell me about the checks.
About the checks.
Don't look down. Look here.
They were supposed to be because her son has not paid child support since the day those kids were born.
Just doesn't
My
make
son
any
paying
shot.
child-
Just a second. You're living in his mother's house with him. He doesn't have to pay child support. He doesn't have to pay
No,
child support.
what I was saying, he wasn't paying anything for these
He's
kids.
not paying anything. You two of you were living together. He's not going to pay you anything. Listen, you chose, young lady, to not only make one baby with somebody that doesn't work, who's a bum, but make 2 babies with somebody who doesn't work as a bum. I asked you a simple question. I asked you about these 2 checks, so don't tell me what she knows. Just tell me about the conversations that you had with her.
The reason why she gave me the checks.
Don't tell me the reason. Tell me about the conversation. She said to me.
Okay. She said, here, this is a gift for you and your children because I know you are struggling, because it's hard. You got to get them food, everything like that. She knew it was around Christmas time. She wanted to see the kids get presents from me, you know, have food, have diapers, have formula, and that kind of stuff. So she said, here's this. This is a gift to you. She had never said that I had to pay her any type of money back.
You know, I would believe you with regard to one of these checks, not both.
Mm-hmm.
Madam, listen to me carefully.
Yes.
If she would do that, she would have written you 1 check for $1,400, not 2 checks, one for $1,000 and one for $400. That doesn't make sense. And if something doesn't make sense, it's not true. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now let's try your story over again.
Well,
because part of this, I believe, is a gift. Part of it.
Well, I didn't understand why she gave me 2 checks.
Well, didn't you ask her?
No.
They're both made out to the same account. They're both from the same bank.
But wouldn't there be a memo if it was for a car?
No.
Or anything like that? Why
Not necessarily. There's not a memo. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't say gift. It doesn't say car. It doesn't say anything.
Your Honor, I didn't feel like I had to put anything on there because...
I didn't ask you any question.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have receipts here.
For what?
For showing for the food that I have bought my children.
Who cares? They're your children. Who's supposed to feed them? Who's supposed to feed them?
Yeah.
What do you mean, yeah? Who's supposed to feed him? Bird, he's got his own children to feed. Me, I got a lot of children, a lot of grandchildren. You make babies, you got to feed them. And if you make babies with a bum who doesn't work, then you have to feed them. That's what you do.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The children haven't seen their grandmother. That's not good for grandchildren.
I have a...
Do I look like I need help from you? I read your case.
And later today...
2 days before that is when I had called the police because he had violently choked me and put me on the couch, so I got really scared and I had called the police.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Joan Ledbetter claims the mother of her grandchildren, Jacqueline Snowden, owes for the return of money she paid for a Pontiac Sunfire.
Now, what happened with the car?
The car was never fixed. The car was never turned over. There was another issue that arose between her and my son. I was outside of a courthouse with her trying to discuss this issue with her. Her new boyfriend was there. I offered to even allow her to come work off part of it. She would not accept my phone calls.
Well, at this point, she left your house because she and your son had a falling out.
I understand it.
You have a new boyfriend?
That is not the only reason why we had left the house. It is because their house had caught on fire. They took the spouting off the front of their house to where the water had leaked into the house. There is water coming down the walls. The father of the kids started, puking up blood, spitting up blood, all signs of black mold. I didn't want my children in that environment.
Fine. You're entitled to move out.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, that's what I was saying.
But there was also an incident involving the boyfriend. You called the police on him.
What, for the $80 that he stole out of my car?
That's why you were in front of a courthouse, wasn't it?
Yeah, because he stole $80 out of my vehicle.
He was not found guilty of that charge.
When?
I can't remember the day, but I got when they had paid me.
Was it after you moved out of his mother's house?
Yes.
Fine. Did he pay you back the $80?
We had to go through court to get the $80
Did you get
back.
the $80?
Yes, ma'am.
From him?
I don't know who had written the check. It was from the attorney.
So they made restitution.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't found guilty, but somebody made restitution.
Yes.
Well, same thing.
Yes.
Got to stop covering for Miss Ledbetter.
I agree with that,
Gotta
but
stop.
I also know that Jackie is a liar, and
There's no question she's a liar.
Okay.
Listen to me.
All right, I got it.
No question she's
I
a
got
liar. We've got the mother of your 2 grandchildren who she may fib, which she did here a little bit, but she also was the hardworking member of the family.
I agree.
Your son was the bum in the family. Not only was he a bum, but he stole money from the mother of his children. He stole money from her because he repaid it, or you repaid it. And if you're telling me you repaid it, then you are more of an enabler than you should be.
No, I'm not going to tell you that at all. But what I'm saying is he was not found guilty of the theft because she told him to get in the car to get it, to go do something with it. And I know I'm splitting hairs here, but she got mad because It's a long story.
She got mad
wanna get
because
into
what?
it.
Are you, just think, before you're answering me, are you making an excuse for him?
Probably. But I do believe that she told him to get the money out of the car.
Maybe, and maybe he took the money out of the car and then misappropriated it.
That's what happened.
Fine.
There we go.
Listen,
That's a
if
good
you
way to
say
put
to
that.
somebody, would you please take the $80 out of my car and go and buy the children formula and Pampers, and he takes the money out and puts it on OTB, he's stolen it.
Okay.
He's stolen it. Now, I don't know if that's what happened, but that's what misappropriating it is.
Got it.
He took it with permission to use for one thing, it was her money, and he used it on something else. Whether he bought drugs with it, OTB, or whatever, or went out drinking with his friends, who cares? He stole it. Got to stop covering for him.
Yes,
now,
ma'am.
Miss Snowden,
Yes, ma'am.
when you lived with Miss Ledbetter, did she help you with the children? So you're talking to me.
Some of the times.
That's all. Some of the time. Listen, she didn't bargain to be the mother of two little tiny children. That was you and the boyfriend. What's his name?
Justin.
That was you and Justin who made these two children. So if she was helpful part of the time, that's fine. And she let you live with Justin and your two children in a house for a couple of years. Did you pay for the telephone? Did you pay the electricity? Did you pay the water? Did you pay the insurance? Did you pay for nothing?
I was in and out over the past 2 years, not necessarily.
But that means you're unstable. What I'm suggesting to you is your children have two sets of grandparents. And from what I gather from Miss Ledbetter, because of all the acrimony that exists now between the two families, the children haven't seen their grandmother. That's not good for grandchildren.
I have a
Do I look like I need help from you? I read your case. I read your case. I'm just telling you, from the perspective of somebody who was in the family court for many, many years, from the perspective of somebody who has children, children thrive on the largest possible community of love and affection, and that means grandparents.
I agree with you, but the reason why I usually don't let her watch the kids unless I am present, but I don't want them in that house, is there are several biohazards that have used needles. And that
They don't have to go to the house.
I've invited them to our house, but they do not want to come to our house.
She has a trespass order against my son. He
Listen to
can't
me.
go.
We're not talking about your son.
Okay.
I read your petition. Your case says that unfortunately you're pursuing grandparents' visitation now in court. And what I'm telling you now is you just said the wrong thing to me. You said your son has a no contact order, so he can't go to the house. I'm not talking about your son. He's a bum. I'm talking about you. She says you're welcome in her mother's house to come and see the grandchildren. Are you prepared to go to her house to see the
I am prepared to do whatever I need to do to see my grandchildren.
Not he. Could she come to your house to see the grandchildren?
Yes, and she can speak with my mother.
No. I don't care about your mother. I'm talking to you. You're old enough to make two babies. You're old enough to make a statement. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Now, she would like to make arrangements to come and see the children on a day when she's not working at your home. You have no objection to her coming to your home to visit with the grandchildren?
No.
Perfect. So that it's just a matter of the court setting a time, correct? Answer.
Yes, ma'am.
You owe Miss Ledbetter $1,000. That's for the car. The $500, I am assuming, was a gift. That's what I'm finding. The $400 check, the $100 in cash was a gift. If you are pursuing your visitation in court, we will make a copy of this tape available to you. She has already consented to you coming to the home and visiting the children, whether it's once a week or once every other week. You'll have to work out the scheduled time, but you can't take the children back to yours because it has nothing to do with your son. It only has to do with you and your grandchildren, okay?
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She wants to see the grandchildren. I haven't let her see the grandchildren.
She's got a new boyfriend who was in court the second time when she took my son to court.
Because their house is not proper for kids to be in.
I called him a not too nice word for an anus, and she's been angry with me ever since.
Daniel Michael is suing his friend's former friend, Talena Bush, for a counterfeit check he cashed on her behalf. Talena says she is also an innocent victim.
That's case number 328 on the calendar, the matter of Michael versus Bush.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Mr. Michael, the defendant is a friend of yours.
Correct.
This is the friend.
His name is Peter All.
And you know Peter because you have custody of his 4 children.
Correct.
You have custody of his 4 children because he and the mother of those children are incapacitated.
They got in trouble in previous times and...
With drugs.
I'm not sure what legal matters, but yes,
Trust me.
Okay.
In any event, how long have you had custody of the children?
I'm starting my 5th year now.
As a foster parent?
Actually, as a guardian. I don't get, like, court benefits.
So you support them?
Yes.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a paramedic firefighter.
How did you come to take the children?
I actually knew their mom. She lived in the neighborhood, and basically we knew each other that way. And when she got in trouble, I basically said that I would take care of them until she got out of the trouble she got into.
And how often does their father see them?
He doesn't see them as often as I'd like him to, but he does spend some time with them. And
does he give you any money for their support?
Well, he's done things like he's bought shoes for them and things like that. And
money for their support.
Yeah, there's been a couple occasions. You know, he'll give you 50, $60 different times.
And their mother?
She's in Florida and haven't seen her for a few years.
Well, Mr. Michael, it's interesting to know that there are still people around like you.
Thank you.
Anyway, Peter over here came to you and said to you that his girlfriend had a check that needed to be cashed. It was a certified check, according to you. And so, because you're a good soul, you said, well, if she's willing to wait, I'll put the money in my bank, because I don't have that much money. It was $6,000. I'll put the money in my account. When the check clears, I'll give her the money. But then somebody cried to you that they really needed the money. Who was that?
Well, when they first came to me, they basically said that it was they didn't say girlfriend, boyfriend. They said that they were doing web designs together, business partners. And they basically said that they were short some cash right then. And so I said, well, I'd give them $2,500 up front.
So you gave them the $2,500, and then later you gave them $3,500.
After the check cleared my bank, and my bank called me and said the check had cleared, I withdrew the rest of the amount and proceeded in giving the rest of the amount to them.
Who did you give it to?
I had to give it to PD All because at the time I didn't have Telena's address, didn't have a number or anything, and at the bank she was the one that stated to give it to him and that she would get it.
No, I never said that.
Listen to me.
Sorry.
Don't interrupt.
I'm sorry.
Good. When did the bank advise you that the check was bad?
It was the 31st of May.
Can I see the statement, please?
Yeah. There's the original check, and there's the notification from the bank.
Where did you get this check from, Miss Bush?
I got an email from someone that wanted me to build them a catering website, and he said he would send me the check. He wanted a 12-page website, and when I got the check, I did not have a banking account, so I asked...
How old are you?
32.
You're 32 years old, and you don't have a bank account?
I had just moved from North Carolina to Kentucky.
When?
Maybe 2 months before I got the check.
Yes.
And I didn't have
Who
a
are you
banking
living
account.
with?
I live by myself. Well, he stays with me.
That would be me, her brother.
You live in an apartment or a house?
House.
Do you rent it?
I'm owning it. I'm buying it.
Were you renting it?
No.
Well, whose house is it? How do you pay the rent?
It's in his
That would
name.
be my name. All of it.
So you didn't have a bank account?
No.
Why didn't you go to your brother and say to your brother, who is a homeowner, who clearly has a bank account, why don't you cash this check for me?
It's a rent-to-own type deal. He doesn't have a banking account either.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that somebody who pays for a house, and he's clearly somebody who's been around the block a few times, doesn't have a bank account, a credit card. You have a wallet with you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Take out your wallet. Put it over there. Open up his wallet. Is there a credit card in there?
They're all mine.
Is there a credit card in there, is my
Yes.
question. Take them all out.
Okay. I had a bank account at one time.
Just a second. Just take them out. All the credit cards.
They're all not good.
How many credit cards are there?
2,
Bert, can I see the credit cards,
3,
please?
4.
I'll take them all.
I have the credit cards. Thank you.
Bert, would you look in the wallet and make sure there are no other credit cards there, please? Thank you.
The one with my...
Shh, quiet. Is your name Jason?
Yeah.
Yes, would be the answer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have one credit card that's yours, and I have 3 credit cards that are your sister's.
That's
that would be
correct.
you,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay, and one is a debit card.
But the one...
Just a second. One is a debit card. Now, I don't use this kind of stuff, but wouldn't a debit card presuppose that you have a checking account that goes with it, Bird?
That's the general
That's
idea.
the general idea. You don't take this money out of, a chicken coop. You take it out of a bank, right?
The only reason why I have that credit card in there is because I lost my ID and it's got my picture on it, and it was an old banking account that I closed in North Carolina.
So why didn't you rip it up?
Because I have to have it for my picture to come out here.
Oh,
to
let's
fly.
go. U.S. Airways, Dividend Miles Platinum, and Liberty Union. What's Liberty Union?
It's a prepaid credit card. All them credit cards are prepaid.
Okay, so a prepaid credit card doesn't mean you have to pay the bill?
No, it means you put money on it to have the money on your card. They don't give you credit. You just put the money on it.
And what about wired plastic?
That's a prepaid. You have to put money on it. It's just a way, so if you want to buy an airplane ticket or rent a hotel, you can do it. It's prepaid. You don't have to have credit. You just...
And how do you pay for the...
You put it on Western Union, and then the money's there for you to use it to do things like that with it.
You send them the cash into them to Western Union?
Yes, ma'am. It's prepaid.
Never heard of anything like this in my life. You have a bank account?
No, ma'am.
What's the name of the company you worked for who sent you this check?
Extreme Web Design is the name of the company that I own. I'm the only person that works there.
I didn't ask you that. I said, what is the name of the company who wrote you this check?
Carlton's Catering Service.
Where are they located?
They're in UK is where it came from. But he said he was opening up a business in Cancun, Mexico, and requested for me to build him a website, 12 pages. And then after I had gotten the money, actually...
Listen to me very carefully, sir. They're all a bunch of scammers. Him and her and the brother. You got scammed out of $6,000. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Her excuse is he ran off for $3,500. I don't believe it. They scammed you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How much money do you give Mr. Michael for your 4 children every week?
I'll give it to him every week.
Outrageous, sir. You are an outrage.
And later today,
She called me and said, I need to get my act together. I want to come back. I'm going to join AA. And I said, okay, we can make this work.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Daniel Michael claims former friend Talena Bush had him cash a counterfeit check for $6,000.
If he deserted his 4 children and is not parenting his 4 children, doing the most dishonest thing that a person could do, make children and then desert them, why do you think he would be honest with you?
You know, he's just really been trying, and like I said, he comes around.
He's been trying? I can look at him and tell how hard he's been trying. Where do you work?
I work for Cox Drywall.
Stand up.
I work every day.
Good. How much? That's great. How much money do you earn?
$14 an hour.
How much money do you take home a week?
After taxes, probably over $400.
And who do you live with?
Oh,
it's not an answer.
my fiance and 2 children.
Who's the fiance?
Misty.
Who is she?
It's a friend.
Wasn't your girlfriend?
No, she wasn't my girlfriend. We just
So you
friends.
live with Misty?
In business together.
You're in business with her?
I used to be her errand. Used to run errands for us, what I did.
Right. How much money do you give Mr. Michael for your 4 children every week?
I don't give it to him every week.
Why not?
Just don't.
Why?
I don't know.
Outrageous, sir. You are an outrage.
Yeah, I'm an outrage.
You're an outrage. Sit
Yeah.
down. Give her back this check, please. Can't look at her anymore. Him either. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. That's all, sir. Do me a favor. Do me a favor. Keep your hard-earned money in the bank where you are going to need it for these children. Understand? Because you're not going to get any help from him.
Thank you.
That's all.
Parties are excused. I'm going to step out.
I didn't scam Dan.
I tried to lend them money in good faith and got taken for it.
I basically was scammed myself.
If she got scammed by a check or not, I honestly don't know.
Well, I didn't get the other $3,500. Dan gave that to Petey, and then he ran off with it.
I wish I did get $3,500. Period. She's lying.
It was a bad check. She didn't know about it, and she got took from him. He hustled her.
They're together. They're the scam artists.
I felt bad for Dan, yes.
I'm not going to cash people's checks anymore. You learn from your mistakes.
21-year-old Jonathan Dufty is suing his ex-girlfriend, 22-year-old Shayna Correo, for vet bills and for her share of a vacation in San Diego.
Now it's case number 279 on the calendar in the matter of Dufty versus Correo. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ladies, have a seat, please.
Mr. Dufty, this used to be your girlfriend, and you lived together for a while. You broke up, and you say that she owes you for expenses of a joint dog, including the gas to go and get it, and the vet bills, etc.
Yep.
And a vacation that you took some time ago, she was supposed to pay for half, and she never did. Ms. Correo, your defense is grow up. Get over it. It's over. Mr. Dufty, how long did you and Ms. Correo live together?
About 5 or 6 months.
Did you move into her apartment? She moved into your apartment?
She moved into my house with me and my mother.
How long had you known her before she moved in?
We were dating about 2 months prior to that.
Why did you move into his mother's house?
Just to be together. We were supposed to move upstairs to our own apartment.
But you never did?
Briefly, but not for long.
Now, you moved in what month?
The end of March.
And when did you have this burning desire to get a pet together?
I would have to say the end of that month.
Why?
I've always wanted one. She had always wanted one. I figured it'd be good to go into it together.
So you went and bought this boxer puppy, and you had to travel to get it.
Yep.
How much did it cost?
It was about $200 in gas to get to Pennsylvania and back.
I didn't ask you how much the gas was. I asked you how much the pet was.
Oh, sorry, $550.
And then there were vet bills.
Correct.
How much were the vet bills?
I have $796 on my credit card.
And who took the dog when you split up?
Shayna did.
Do you want the dog back?
No.
You're perfectly happy with her having the dog?
Well, it's been there for a while now.
So you're perfectly happy with that?
comfortable there, yeah.
Good. Under what theory, Mr. Dufty, under what theory do you think a court is going to give you the vet bills back?
Well, I don't have the dog anymore. She took the dog without even attempting to ask me if I wanted it, so I had no choice. She just took the dog. I have all this money invested into the dog and vet bills, and I have no dog to
Well,
show
when
for
you
it.
weren't getting along, according to what I read in the complaint and the answer, she said, I'm going to my mother's house to cool off for the weekend.
Right.
She left you a note. She took the dog with her. And you decided you had enough of her, period, so you told her not to bother to come back.
Yes.
Right?
I
Right?
ended the relationship.
Now, when you called her and told her, you emailed her, how did you get the message across to her to tell her that you didn't want her to come back?
It was text messaging over the phone, which is not the way I wanted it done.
Just a minute. You mean text messaging each
Yeah.
other back and forth. So you said to her, don't bother to come back.
Well, she asked me what I wanted to do. I said, I don't see this going anywhere.
I'll get to you in a minute. So now you say, I don't see this going anywhere. Don't bother to come back.
Right.
Did you say, bring my dog back?
That wasn't...
Did you
No,
say,
not at
bring
that
my
time.
dog back?
No.
When did you say, where's my dog?
About a week later.
Well, what did you think was going to happen to the dog in the 2 weeks now that it's been with defendant?
I tried to talk to her about what was going to happen because she still owed me the money for the vacation. We didn't know what was going on with the dog. She refused to talk to me and told me that I needed to speak to her mother about any problems I had.
Did you?
Yes. And her mother told me that I had to bring her to court to settle any problems.
All right. Now, Mr. Dufty, let me take care of the first part of your problem. Let's take care of the dog.
All right.
You get nothing for the dog.
Okay.
You lived together, you played house together, you bought this puppy together. That's what sometimes young, stupid people do. They say, well, we're not going to have a child together right now. We're going to get a pet together. Foolishness. There was no agreement. There was no contract. There was no
Right.
contract with the defendant whatsoever.
Correct.
That should you separate, she was going to keep the dog, but she would reimburse you for the vet bills. It's contract.
Right. But I never had a choice to even have
Oh,
an
certainly you
option
had
to keep the dog.
Certainly you had a
Because I
choice,
was at
sir.
work.
You didn't want the dog. If, when you text messaged her for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
you said, don't bother to come home, but by the way, I paid for the vet bills for the dog, I paid for the gas to get there to purchase the dog, and I think it's only fair that I should have the dog back.
Right.
And she says, no, I want the dog. And you say, well, then let's amicably come up with a resolution with regard to that. That's one thing. But you didn't mention the dog at all.
Okay.
That's sort of an afterthought. In any event, you had no contract. There is no contract or
Right.
theory under which I find that the law is going to help you get these vet bills paid. It would really be no different if you purchased a car together, stupidly, in joint names, and the car needed repairs, and you paid for the repairs, and then you broke up, and she took the car. Well, we purchased the car jointly, so we're each going to get half the money, but I put in all the money to fix the car. There has to be some theory under which you're going to get that back, other than
Correct.
just juvenile stupidity. Okay. So far, you didn't say much. So far, you're a winner, right?
Correct.
You have the dog. You're taking care of the dog?
Correct.
Good. Now, let's get to the vacation. When did you take the vacation?
The vacation we took in the middle of middle to the end of March.
May.
March 2000.
May.
May. Where did you go?
To San Diego.
Where were you working at the time, Mr. Dufty?
I was currently unemployed. I had been laid off. I had another job lined up to
So you were unemployed. And where were you working?
At a daycare in
How much did you earn?
$250 a week.
Why are you asking me? I don't work there.
$250.
Okay, so you were unemployed. You decided to take a vacation. That's always a good thing when you're unemployed to take a vacation. It clears your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Where were you going?
We went to San Diego to visit my family.
How long were you there?
12 days.
Who did you stay with?
My cousin and my uncle.
In their house?
Correct.
So let me hear the story, Mr. Dufty.
In the end of May, my cell phone contract was ending, so I was getting a new cell phone. She, at the time, needed to buy a new cell phone, so...
No, I didn't.
Shh!
So I decided that we'll get a cell phone contract together. We'll save money renewing a contract on buying her a new phone. At the same time, we were planning the vacation. She didn't have the money or amounts on credit cards to pay for the vacation. So I decided and made a deal with her that I will pay for the vacation if you pay for the cell phone bills until the amount equals up. And then when we ended the relationship...
There's no contract.
Just a second. I want you to be quiet and not interrupt him again.
And then when I ended the relationship, she canceled my cell phone and stopped paying everything.
Had she paid the cell phone between May and September?
She paid it for 5 months.
Did you pay for the cell phone bill for 5 months?
6 months.
Why?
Because it was on my contract, under my name, and
Was
it was
it any
just
extra
easier.
for him?
Yes.
How much?
It was probably like $60 to $70 more a month.
What bills did Mr. Dufty pay for you?
No bills. He paid for the vacation, but there was no contract in saying that I would pay him back for the vacation.
How come you didn't pay for anything when you went?
Because
Look at me. Don't look down there. How come you didn't pay for anything?
I didn't have the money to pay for a vacation like that.
Did you tell him that?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said he'd take care of it.
Excuse me, can I say something?
Sure. Stand up when you say something.
Yep.
You're his mother.
Okay. After she moved out, she said that it was an agreement between the two of them that he would pay for the trip to California and she would continue to pay the cell phone bill. That was an agreement they had made.
Who did she say that to?
She said it to me.
When?
It was a week after that she had moved out of the house when she came to get her mail. And she told me that he dumped her and she was not going to pay the cell phone bill anymore.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
There's no reason for me to pay for his cell phone, especially if he's going to threaten me.
Why did he threaten you if you didn't pay for it for 10 months?
And later today,
3 weeks after he purchases this car, he doesn't have a car and he doesn't have his girlfriend. How do you think he feels?
Jonathan Dufty claims ex-girlfriend Shayna Correo owes for vet bills on a dog she kept after their breakup. Jonathan also says Shayna owes for half the cost of a vacation in San Diego.
Did you have a conversation with his mother about the vacation when you came to pick up your mail?
I did have a conversation with the cell phone because she had asked me why I shut off the cell phone.
And what did you say to her?
I said I shut it off because we are no longer a couple and there is no reason for me to pay for his cell phone, and especially if he's going to threaten me that I have to pay for it for 10 months so he can rack up my bill and then I have bad credit because I can't pay for that.
Why did he threaten you if you didn't pay for it for 10 months?
Because he said that if I didn't give him money for the vacation, then he's not going down to Verizon to get on his own contract, and he said that I should pay for 10 months worth of more cell phone bills to add up to the vacation that I owed him.
So what you're telling me is that you did not have an agreement before.
We never had an agreement.
But afterwards he said you pay for half the vacation or pay for my phone.
Right.
I believe that. I believe it, Mr.
Excuse
Dufty.
me.
And I believe her when she said that her defense to this case is you got to grow up and you got to move on.
Your Honor?
No, listen to me. Listen to me. You went to San Diego to, according to you, visit your relatives. You stayed there. She was earning $250 a week. The likelihood of her spending $1,500 on a vacation is de minimis.
It wasn't $1,500, it was $1,200.
$1,200 on a vacation.
But I was unemployed at the time.
Is de minimis. Living with your moms.
Right.
Your case is dismissed, Mr. Dufty. You don't have a contract with her. You never had a contract with her. And the fact that it's over doesn't make it a contract.
It was an agreement before the relationship was ended.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all.
What's Grace do? You may step out.
He was really out for money.
She was looking for a free ride.
I think he made up pretty good.
26-year-old Nicole Hunsinger is suing her former live-in boyfriend, 25-year-old Brian Moss, for rent an unpaid loan, and a cell phone.
All rise. Now, this is case number 160 on the calendar in the matter of Hunzinger versus Moss. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat.
Miss Hunzinger, this used to be your boyfriend. You lived together for a period of time. Your complaint is threefold. First, you say that you made a loan to him a little over a year ago. He needed some money for a lawyer and for some fines. And while he paid you back some, he still owes you money.
Yes, ma'am.
Second, that you ultimately broke up with each other. You moved out of the apartment that you were sharing and both contributing to, with the understanding that Mr. Moss was going to pay the rent. He ended up not paying the rent, and in order to preserve your credit, you paid the rent because you were also on the lease.
Yes, ma'am.
And then some nonsense about a cell phone. I hate these cell phone cases. You know, I think that they ought to abolish the ability of people to get cell phones for other people. If you can afford a cell phone, you get a cell phone. If you can't afford a cell phone, you don't get a cell phone. Aren't there still things on the street where you can put in a quarter and make a phone call?
I'm not sure. It's been so long.
I think that there probably are, or else you wait until you get home, or write a letter, or use a stamp, or something.
I agree.
But if you can't afford a cell phone out there in television land, don't get one. And don't get anybody else one.
I want a copy of this for my kids.
Would you do that?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll get you one.
Thank you.
Anyway, when did you move into this apartment together?
February 13th of 05.
And what was the rent?
$425 a month, everything included.
And your arrangement was that you split the rent?
No, ma'am. We decided to, because I had more bills going out monthly, that he would pay majority of the rent and I would help him pick up whatever was left of the monthly rent.
So how did you deal with that each month?
Every week he would get money from his paycheck. He would put it in an envelope in the apartment. When rent was due, whatever money wasn't there to pay the rent in full, I would put in.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So how much did you put in?
I was anywhere from $50 to $100 a month I was putting into my own money that he was short.
And what were you paying for?
Car loan, insurance, student loans, credit card bills, the cell phones.
Okay. And when did you move out?
I moved out shortly after we broke up on July 1st. I called the landlord and said I was leaving and told her why.
Why were you leaving?
I found out some stuff that he was doing behind my back, and that did not make me happy. And then we got in an argument. It got heated. I didn't like the situation, so I left.
Did you make any arrangement with him about staying in the apartment, or did you just leave?
I left, and I called the landlord, told her where I was and why I left. She said that if he would agree to go on the lease.
That's hearsay. Now, she left in July.
Yes, ma'am.
When did you leave?
I left in August, I believe.
Think carefully.
I think it was September, October.
Think carefully before you give me an answer.
October,
August,
ma'am.
September, or October?
October, ma'am.
Mr. Moss, I want you to try not to irritate me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a very low threshold.
Yes, ma'am.
So you left in October?
Yes.
October what?
Beginning of October, ma'am. I'm not sure what day.
I believe it was the 7th.
7th.
Well, the 7th is into October, so you owed rent for. You left in July, so I assume you paid July's rent.
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Why not?
Because he obviously had paid it because they didn't notify me that he didn't.
Did you pay August's rent?
Yes, ma'am.
September?
Yeah, I believe.
Not
yes,
all of it, ma'am.
Not all of it.
I think you should have stayed with her because she can finish your sentences because you're having these mind lapses.
Yes, ma'am.
How much of October's rent did you pay?
I believe about a little over $200, ma'am.
October?
October, nothing in the beginning.
$425 in October. And how much of September's rent did you pay?
Little over $300, ma'am.
How much?
I ended up having to put in, with his late fees and the remainder of the rent he didn't pay, it was $157.50.
Plus the $425 for October?
Yes, ma'am.
And what about November, December, and January? What did the landlord do with November, December, and January? Do you have an agreement with him?
I have their paperwork right here.
Can I see it, please?
On the second page, it's in bill form of what I paid.
All right, Mr. Moss. Now let's have your defense with regard to this rent, which she paid to the landlord in the amount of $1,275, which covers October, November, and December's rent. Come on. Come.
Well, she ended up moving out in July, leaving me with the rest of the lease, and from what I told the landlord, I figured that since she
Why
left
did she
first,
move out, sir?
We broke up, so she moved.
Why?
Because she wanted to live somewhere else, I guess.
You think so?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't think that there was any cause for her to leave?
No, we just broke up, and that was it, and she decided to leave.
Well, so it was an amicable breakup, according to you.
It was just pretty much she broke up with me, that was it.
Listen, do you know what the word amicable means?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir. Was it an amicable breakup? Amicable breakup usually means that two people sit down and say, listen, we have this lease, let's see how we can resolve this. You know, I can stay in the apartment and you leave, or you stay in the apartment and I'll leave, and this is the way we're going to resolve the bills, and this is the way we're going to resolve the loan.
What was amicable at first, ma'am?
It was at first. We agreed on some things, and it was.
What did you agree on? Mr. Moss?
Basically, what I agreed on was that I can, for as long as I could, I can, you know, maintain the rent.
No, Mr. Moss, that's not what you said. What do you mean, as long as you could, you would maintain the rent?
I didn't say I was going to do it until the end of the lease, Your Honor.
Where are you living now, sir?
I'm living in another apartment now, in the same town.
With whom?
Myself.
What's the rent?
$320 a month.
So that's a difference of $100 a month in the rent.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you had paid this landlord $320 a month rent, she would have been relieved of the burden of paying the landlord $1,275, right? The
Yes,
landlord
ma'am.
would have come after her for only a few $100s, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So why didn't you do that? It must have cost you something to move.
It cost me quite a bit to move, but...
So why did you move?
I couldn't afford to stay there at that time. I had to borrow from friends just to move to another place. But I couldn't borrow enough to actually maintain there, and then I didn't want to just stay there anymore. It was just...
That sounds like a lot of double talk to me, Mr. Moss.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What did you need a lawyer for, Mr. Moss?
Identity theft.
Whose identity did you steal?
Father's.
Father pressed charges?
Yes, ma'am.
He must have been really angry with you for something else.
He told me his father was dead.
And later today,
You have another phone now, sir?
Yes, I do.
Good. When did you get it? Look at me. When did you get it?
When did I get it? I don't know.
When did you get it? That's a question. I ask the questions, you give me the answer. When did you get the phone?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nicole Hunsinger claims ex-boyfriend Brian Moss owes for rent, a cell phone bill, and attorney fees after he was arrested for identity theft.
Okay. Now let's get to the loan. When did you make this loan and for what?
It was for attorney.
What did you need a lawyer for, Mr. Moss?
I had another court case, Your Honor.
What kind of court case, sir?
Criminal court.
For what?
Identity theft.
And?
Whose identity did you steal?
Father's.
Your father's?
Yes, ma'am.
How much money did you rack up before they found out?
$1,087, ma'am.
Father pressed charges?
Yes, ma'am.
He must have been really angry with you for something else.
I haven't talked to him about 7 years, ma'am.
Apparently, he told me his father was dead.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Did you receive probation in that case?
No, it was, if I didn't get in trouble for 6 months, it was a sponge.
It was what?
A sponge. It was just gotten rid of.
You had an adjournment and contemplation of dismissal for 6 months?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have to pay restitution?
Yes.
And what was the restitution?
$1,087, I believe.
And fines?
No fines.
And how much was the lawyer?
Lawyer was $1,500, and that was it.
And who gave you the money?
Miss Hunsinger.
But the retainer wasn't all the way borrowed.
Shh.
Sorry.
How much did you pay her back?
I paid for the first few of the monthly payments of the lawyer's fee.
How
Actually,
much?
the loan fee. I'm not 100% sure, ma'am. It was like 4 months.
How many months did he pay you back?
He paid for the first 5 months of my loan payments.
And how much were the loan payments?
They were $113.35 a month.
Why did you stop?
Because she had left. I had lost contact with her. She asked for the phone back, and that was it. And I hadn't seen her since then. I only seen her once or twice. Yes, ma'am.
So at this point, Mr. Moss, we are acknowledging the loan
Yes, ma'am.
in the amount now, according to you, of $2,142.
Yes, ma'am.
See what he said about this in his answer. I didn't hear anything. She never said I had to pay her back.
She didn't. I did that on my own record.
He gave me his word.
Okay. So far, Mr. Moss, I find the following, sir. That you had, according to you, an amicable initial breakup.
Yes.
The discussion was, and this is what I find, not what you say,
Yes, ma'am.
that you agreed to stay in the apartment and she was leaving.
Yes.
And if you agreed to stay in the apartment and she was leaving, that means that you agreed to cover the rent. And you didn't. And I have verification from the landlord that you didn't pay the rent and that she did, And that, as a matter of fact, you moved into another apartment at practically the same rent. So you really could have stayed there and maybe been shy a couple of $100, not the $1,275 that she had to kick in. So I believe that you had an agreement with her to stay there for the duration of the lease. Did you move someplace else?
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you move?
I moved across town with a friend.
You pay rent?
Yes, ma'am.
How much?
$465 split half, so it's for $232.50 a month I pay.
Maybe if you had a friend, Mr. Moss, you could have gotten yourself that kind of situation. In any event, I also find that you owe her for the remainder of this loan that you stopped paying. That's $21.42. Those two figures together are $34.17. Now, I want you to do this cell phone really fast.
I can...
Miss Hunsinger.
Real briefly, yes.
Really fast, because you know how irritated I am with cell phones already?
Yep.
Go ahead.
He's just said that we lost contact and this is why he wasn't giving me money. Well, the last loan payment I paid was August, which was a month after we had broke up. I did receive money for the August payment, so he had the cell phone in order to keep in contact, to make arrangements to get money to pay the bills. And, well, my cell phone bill here of 5,977 minutes. 5,977 in one billing cycle. Everything in this that's highlighted orange is a number, a dating service he was calling, and porn numbers on my dime.
What months was he doing that?
From April of 05 to October of 05.
While you were
even
living,
when
while you were living together?
Yes, ma'am. He was calling a dating service when we were together.
Why weren't you getting the bills? It was your phone.
After the first 2 billing cycles of our cell phone bill, they stopped sending a detailed bill. Well, after I allowed him to keep the phone, to keep in contact with me, I got detailed 60-page bill for one bill.
Should have gotten it before, Miss Hunsinger.
Yes, ma'am. I know.
Should have gotten it before. Because you're going to deal with that cell phone bill. It's going to make you smarter for the future. Going to make you smarter and stronger.
Mm-hmm. It will. He will. He's going to never again.
Good girl. Who is this?
That's my stepfather.
Looks like a nice man. All right, Mr. Moss, there are no free rides in this world, sir. You owe her $3,417. You're a very lucky girl.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right?
Thank you.
The first mistake that you made was, as soon as you found out that he had stolen his father's identity, you should have packed your suitcase and fled.
I'm aware of that, but
and
he told me he was dead.
He told you his...
He told me his father was dead until
and it was
he got
okay
charged.
to steal his identity because he was dead?
He came back from the dead and...
Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
You know,
I do.
You have to hire a lawyer, and in order to get an adjournment and contemplation of dismissal, unless the DA is not playing with a full deck, which is an ACD, which is what he got, he has to plead guilty. He has to say, I did something wrong, which he sort of acknowledges that he stole his father's identity. And you had to know that in your soul, right? How old are you?
I'm 26.
26. And you?
25, ma'am.
Is this your first arrest, sir?
No.
Got it? Kiss the ground. Look up to God and say, thank you, God. Before I got further involved with him, before I made a baby with him, before he took everything that I have for now and the future, move on.
Yes, ma'am.
Kiss goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I just think it's wrong, but, I mean, there's nothing else I can do about it, so.
A slime. That's all I can say. He's a liar.
It was just funny because everything was a gift until we broke up.
Nope. Not a gift. He knew they were loans, and he agreed to pay him back.
Basically, she was trying to hold everything that we ever had together over my head, and I just couldn't take it anymore.
He's a liar. He's a criminal. He's a liar.
Pretty much, we just didn't see eye to eye on so many things.
I won't trust again. It's going to take a long time.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Velasco versus Vopel, step forward, please.
Daycare provider Melanie Velasco is suing former client Tasha Vopel for unpaid babysitting fees. Tasha claims Melanie is trying to pad the bill.
Miss Velasco, you claim that the defendant owes you for babysitting for her 2 children. Ms. Vopel says she's paid you, and she paid you for the time that you babysat for her. Do you do babysitting as a living?
Yes, I do.
Is that the only source of income that you have?
My husband works.
You have children of your own?
Yes, I do.
How old?
I have a 9-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
The 2-year-old is home all the time?
Yes.
And the 4-year-old?
Yes, he's home also.
So you have 2 children home?
Yes.
When did Miss Vopel start to bring her 2 children to your house?
On March 27th.
How did you find her, Miss Vopel?
I was going through the paper, and I was just calling different ads for caregivers.
Did you meet her before you decided to send your 2 children to her home?
I did.
When you spoke to her on the phone, did you ask how much she charged?
Yeah, I did ask her how much she charged. She told me $80 a week, something to that effect.
$80 a week per child.
Right. And I had 3 children, so I knew that that wasn't going to be affordable for me, and I expressed that to her, and she said that we would work something out.
Did you bring 2 children to her or 3?
Just 2. I only decided to take my 2 boys. My daughter was little.
And how many weeks did your children stay there?
They attended not quite a month, but they did not go every day of the week.
They don't have to go every day. That's your problem. I read your answer. You said you paid her $200, and the $200 covered the days that the children were there. They weren't always there because they were sick. Sometimes you didn't take them for whatever reason. That has nothing to do with Miss Velasco. You had a contract with her. Your contract provided for $80 a week per child, $160 a week for the 2 children. They were there for 4 weeks, according to what you both seem to agree was the tenure of their time. So, all things being equal, 160 times 4 equals $640. That's what you should have paid her. And if you only paid her $200, then you owe her $440. Why would you think you owe her any less?
Well, she never stated that I had to pay her for days that my children did not attend.
And when the children didn't attend, would you call her that morning and say somebody can't come?
If it wasn't that morning, it would be the night before.
All right. Now, Miss Vopel, let me explain something to you. Miss Velasco supplements her family's income by babysitting for children. If she's contracted with you to take care of your 2 children, she can't have other children. She can't have a whole host of children because she has 2 children of her own she's taking care of. It would be irresponsible for her to take care of more than 4 children at her home. So she has contracted with you for her source of income at $80 a week per child. You can't say, well, I'm not bringing my child today, I don't have to pay. Don't you get that?
I don't understand why I should pay for services that weren't rendered.
Hello in there. Who is this person?
My husband.
What kind of work does he do?
At the time, he was installing underground cable stuff.
Is this the same husband that, according to the plaintiff, left you on the side of the road?
Yes.
And he is not the father of these 2 children?
No.
That's personal matters, sorry.
Let me explain something to you. Did you see my mouth ask you a question?
Sorry.
Let me ask you this question, madam. Did you ever work for a living?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
At the time, I was working at Steak and Shake.
Were you paid by the hour or by the week?
By the hour.
Well, did you ever have a weekly job where you got paid by the week?
No.
Then maybe you don't understand, so I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to try to give you an example. Let's say you had a job where you were paid by the week, $500 a week, and you were working at Steak and Shake, and that was your weekly salary, $500 a week. And you worked there for years. That was your salary, $500. You got a paycheck every 2 weeks, $1,000. And one day the owner of Steak and Shake says, you know, I'm going to take my wife and my children to Disneyland. So I'm going to close the store for 2 days. And I'm going to close the store for 2 days, and I'm not paying you. And you can say, well, you can't do that. My salary is by the week. I don't get paid by the hour or by the day. We have a contract. And your contract with me is you pay me by the week. If you decide to close your business, you can't not pay me. And your boss says to you, well, you didn't render any services for those 2 days. And you say to him, but that's not my fault. I was ready, willing, and able to come to work. You closed the business to go on vacation. Do you get it?
I do understand.
There is a difference between an hourly employee or a daily employee where you're notified the day before or a week before, here's your schedule. I'm closing the business. I'm not giving you hours that day. But when you're a weekly employee, you get paid as long as you're ready, willing, and able to work. She got paid by the week, $160 per week to take care of your 2 children. And if you chose to go on vacation to Disneyland, that doesn't mean she doesn't get paid. Or if you chose not to go to work, or if one of the children was sick, whatever reason, or if he left you behind some shopping mall because he had a problem. By the way, I would tolerate that for about a second and a half. Okay. How much money did she give you, Miss Velasco?
She never paid me a dime.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $640. That's all.
While these are excused, you may step out.
I took very good care of her son.
I'm going to go for somebody that's licensed.
And she's not going to find anybody to just watch them for free.
Not an in-home daycare.
I think Judge Judy's final decision.
Time, yes. I'm not for sure.
What are you sure of, sir?
I'm sure that I got arrested. That I am sure.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Andrea Wingate says, in a moment. Have you been cheated? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Understand that fact that he don't want to mess with you. Go find somebody else, a younger person who wants to have kids like I told her in the first place.
Michael Allen is suing fellow musician Glenn Henry for assaulting him and breaking his equipment after a show. Glenn says Michael started it.
All rise.
This is case number 115 on the calendar, the matter of Allen versus Henry. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Mr. Allen?
Yes, Your
You
Honor.
were the opening act.
Yes.
And according to your complaint, you two people are musicians, you sing, you have a band.
That's correct.
You were performing at, I assume, these buildings. And for some reason, you two gentlemen, who look like nice, mature people, didn't get along. And you, Mr. Allen, claimed that Mr. Henry, at the end of the concert, caused damage to your musical equipment.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Henry says that you assaulted him, and the reason your musical equipment was damaged, if it was at all, is because of that assault, and he is counterclaiming for his injuries. That's what the case is about. Had you ever played at a concert with each other before?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
On what date were you playing?
June 25th, 2005.
Where?
At a family resort near Sacramento, California.
Had you played there before?
Many times.
And you?
No, Your Honor.
So you're a regular at this resort?
Yes.
Are you the regular opening act?
No, I have been the main performer for a number of concerts.
Okay. Tell me how your musical equipment was damaged, Mr. Allen.
After the concert, I was in charge and given the authority and responsibility of closing up the stage building directly behind the stage. I asked Glenn if all of his equipment was outside of the building, and he said yes. I said, I'm closing up the building, and he said, please don't close it. I need to go through it. Glenn wanted the building open so he could bring his equipment through the building. I suggested to Glenn that he drive his truck next to the stage area.
Would you please walk over to that diagram and show me what you suggested he do rather than go through the building in order to get his car?
I believe his vehicle was parked here.
That's inaccurate, Your Honor. The vehicle.
Okay,
It may have been out here,
Okay.
but I thought it was here. For
May have
this
been
case,
behind
it
the
doesn't.
building.
Correct. This is a temporary fence, plastic fence. After the concert, this was taken down.
How were you closing the building, Mr. Allen?
I was inside
I
the
have
building.
something to say, too.
Not now.
Okay.
Later.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Our discussions took place outside the stage building, on the stage.
Okay.
I suggested that Glenn bring his vehicle either here or here to here, rather than having to...
On the grass?
Yes.
Okay. And he wanted to take some equipment out from the stage through the building to the back.
Yes,
Is
Your
that
Honor.
correct so far?
That's correct.
All right. Now, you wanted to leave.
Correct.
And in order for you to leave, you had to secure the building. So you said to him, I'm not leaving the building open while you go inside to get your stuff and take it out. I want you to leave now, out the stage, go get your car and bring it back. There, to where it says loading area.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Then what happened, Mr. Allen?
I asked Glenn if all...
Now
the
step
equipment-
back. Yeah, I already told you what you asked him, and he said, no, I don't want to do that.
Correct.
Okay.
So I entered the stage building and began to close the door. Glenn approached the closed door, put his right foot in between the barn doors.
Was there any reason why you did that, sir, after he said, no, I'd rather take my stuff out through the building? Is there any reason why you just said
Yes,
it will
Your
take
Honor.
an extra 10 minutes, whatever?
Well,
I was almost done.
The next time, I'm just dismissing your counterclaim.
I understood.
Do you understand?
I understand.
That's the way I get even.
Okay.
I don't
I
have to get
understand.
frustrated with you, sir.
I can accept that.
Good. Because, Mr. Henry, what happens is, because you can't follow directions, I must assume that you have a very low threshold of attention and temper. So that doesn't augur well for your position.
Understood.
Good. Now, he's not going to interrupt us again, because
Thank you,
now
Your
there
Honor.
are consequences, stated consequences.
Yes, Your Honor.
That doesn't mean that I understand why, sir. You didn't say, listen, it'll take me an extra 10 minutes. I got a guy here who I never met before, who's just being obstreperous. Go take your stuff in and out. Is there any reason why you didn't do that?
Yes. My equipment remained inside the building. I had a lot of sound equipment. There's a lot of lighting equipment in the stage building.
Yeah.
I was performing the next day for a 4-hour solo concert.
So?
It was very late. I had a very long day.
Okay. Well, you know, that's your problem.
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. So he put his foot in the door.
Yes.
Okay, and?
And entered the building. He approached me fairly rapidly. I put my hands up like this to slow or stop his approach. He hit me in the nose, and I lost my footing. Then he pushed me very hard, open palm, whereby I fell backwards. With my right arm, I hit one of my guitars resting on a guitar stand. That guitar went through the air and significantly damaged a second guitar, and that's why we're here.
Okay, so that's what your case is about.
Yes, Your Honor.
Very good. Okay, now, Mr. Henry.
Thank you, Your Honor. Initially, when we first started to set up our equipment, my show is quite large. It involves a personnel of 5 musicians and a big show and a big production.
Mr. Henry, get to after the show.
Okay. There was a problem initially with taking the equipment down. Mr. Allen, may I step over to the diagram?
Yes.
He preferred to use this as a loading area when, in fact, this was not a loading area. Your Honor, the manager of the resort explained to me that he did not want
Don't tell me what anybody explained to you, sir. Listen to me.
I wasn't permitted to park my car on the lawn.
Okay,
Okay.
fine.
The diagram is accurate.
Where was your car?
My car was out here on the street.
Okay, good.
And the diagram is accurate.
And where is your equipment? Show me
My
your
equipment is on the stage.
Okay.
And
where is the door?
There's a door here, there's a big stage door here, and there is a door here. However, this is inaccurate. The fence was still there. It had not been taken down. The fence was, in fact, in front of this door here, in front of the door, thus precluding...
Okay, so you could have gotten out the back door and gone to the street.
That's what I was doing, Your Honor.
Okay, fine. So he tells you can't do that, and he starts closing the door. Now that's the point where we're at, Mr. Henry.
Correct. Well, at that point, when I had told him I just have one more piece of equipment, actually 2 more pieces of equipment to take through there.
Well, was it 1 or 2?
It was 2. It was my amplifier cabinet and my amplifier.
Okay.
At that point, may I return?
Yes.
Okay. At that point, he did not allow me to pass through the stage door and began to close the stage door as I was actually pushing my amplifier through the stage door. When he was closing the stage door, he was pushing it against my amplifier and my fingers and my foot. I had my fingers in this tight manner here, and I was holding the door back, and it was a huge metal door, and he pushed it, and it pinched my finger between the amplifier cabinet and the metal door, Your Honor. And at that point in time, I screamed stop over and over again, and I overpowered the ability of him to hold the door and push the door back. When I pushed the door back, he was staring at me with a cocked fist, and I pushed him, Your Honor, and there's a clear admission that I pushed him, but it was solely for the purpose of preventing him from further harming me. And also, I was placed in a situation of duress, and I see it as a normal human reaction.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If I made any part of my living using my hands, I would have gotten myself to an emergency room at a hospital.
I don't use my pinky finger, Your Honor, to play or to write.
Well, then you don't need it, so what are you suing him for?
Well...
And later today...
Had you met him personally before you sent him the photographs?
No, I haven't.
Well, why in the world would you do something so stupid?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michael Allen claims fellow musician Glenn Henry assaulted him and damaged his equipment after a show. Glenn is countersuing for an injury to his pinky finger.
Anybody have a police report, please?
Yes, Your Honor.
I'd like to see it.
In the police report, it...
Don't tell me what it says in the police report. One of the first things I learned was how to read.
Here's the entire police report.
I'll take both, please, Bird. Mr. Henry.
Yes, Your Honor.
You embellished the story, sir, that you told me today.
I did not, Your Honor.
Sir, the police officer who took down a report on the day of the incident, and I would assume that your memory was more intact the day of the incident than it is a year or so later.
I was very scattered, Your Honor.
Listen
There's
to
a
me,
lot
you
going
weren't
on.
very scattered at all. You were very precise when you told him exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, after the show, we got into another argument because you had had some words before the show started, because Mike, that's him, wanted to lock up the building next to the stage, but I still needed it open. Mike tried to close the door on me from the inside, but I stopped it with my foot.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Mike started swinging at me and tried to push me out the door. I pushed him away from me to try to protect myself. When I pushed him away, he fell into one of his guitars, knocking it over. So the story that you told the deputy on the day of the incident was different from what you just told me today.
Your Honor, the police couldn't
listen
even
to me. About holding the amplifier and getting your finger caught in the door with the amplifier. You told the police nothing about that.
I did explain that to the police, Your Honor. The police couldn't even get my name right.
Police officer was very specific.
He didn't
Mr.
get my
Henry.
name right even. He did not make out a report at the scene. He told me he wasn't going to make a report out.
Very specific. This is the report you just gave me.
Yeah, he made it out the next day because the plaintiff had called him up with the purpose of an intent to bring about civil litigation. That's why he compelled him to make a report.
He's not telling me what the plaintiff said.
It says it on the report.
He's telling me what you told him. He has a whole other version about what Mr. Allen said.
I don't think it was an accurate representation, Your Honor, to be honest with you.
Okay, good.
I did explain to him everything I just explained to you.
Good. Both of you denied that there was any injury.
Correct, Your Honor.
You specifically said, I understand, that's you. He says, this is a quote, I understand nothing will happen anyways, and I don't want to press criminal charges. I am not hurt, and I don't need any medical attention. So that at that time, you told the police the day of the incident that you weren't injured and that you don't need any medical attention. Didn't tell the police officer anything about your swollen finger and anything that you wrote here in your complaint.
Right. I didn't discover it until the next morning, Your Honor. Really. And
listen to me. That night, my finger did not have much pain, but the following day, I woke up, my pinky was swollen and throbbing. I had no health insurance and couldn't afford to go to the doctor at the time, so I made my own splint.
Correct.
Ah, Mr. Henry, I don't believe you, Mr. Henry. I don't.
That's what I'm left with.
Mr. Henry, I don't know when that happened, sir. You don't need health insurance to go to an emergency room in a hospital. And if I had a band and if I made any part of my living using my hands, I would have gotten myself to an emergency room at a hospital.
I don't use my pinky finger, Your Honor, to play or to write.
Well, then you don't need it. So what are you suing him for?
Well, Your Honor,
that didn't require an answer, sir.
I wasn't planning on suing him, but he opened the door, Your Honor, so I'm here. I wasn't planning on bringing anybody.
I want to know what you claim these two people are witnesses to.
Yes, Your Honor.
No, tell me. What would he testify to, or is he just here for window dressing?
No, I told my friend Vince that after I'd fallen onto the ground, Glenn had grabbed me by my shirt collar and drugged me across the floor.
Well, you're not suing for him for assault, so you're suing him for the damaged equipment.
I understand that, Your Honor.
Okay.
That didn't happen, Your Honor.
Mr. Henry?
Okay.
Your counterclaim's dismissed. I always keep my word.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Allen, it slightly pains me to entertain these bills because I really think that you were passive-aggressive that evening. That if you're dealing with somebody who you think is a little off, because clearly you had an altercation with him before this concert started, and if the way to get rid of him is just to hold the door open for another half hour, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, you just do it. You don't start to have an interaction with somebody who is not behaving rationally. So I'm not totally sympathetic with you, but I believe he behaved badly, and I believe he damaged your property, and I don't believe that his poor pinky was a result of anything that you did. Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff, the amount of $3,700. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He was, in fact, intoxicated during the whole entire event.
As a solo performer, I have to have all my facilities, and I don't drink at all.
Robin Bray is suing Gary White Sr. for the cost to fix her car. Robin claims Gary's son, 17-year-old Gary Jr., rear-ended her at a traffic light and drove away.
Strauss.
I'm a
Is
writer.
not an answer.
I'm sorry. I'm a writer. I drive a taxi.
A writer of what?
To live off of. I write romance novels.
Did you ever sell one?
I'm working on it.
That's not an answer.
No.
And now you drive a cab.
Yes.
There was a time when the two of you lived together, you were in a relationship, and Miss McGrath, you were foolish enough to co-sign a loan on a truck that the two of you purchased. It was in both of your names. Then you split up, and you allowed Mr. Strauss, according to your complaint, to take the truck with him to... Take your hands out of your pockets. To take the truck with him to Colorado, yes. And he was supposed to make the payments and take care of it, right?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Very foolish. I don't know whether he made the payments or not. Did you while the truck was with you?
For 7 months, I made the payments.
7 months you made the payments.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened?
I was involved in a collision on
Then
New
he
Year's.
wrecked the truck badly. What?
Your Honor, it wasn't just a wreck, it was a DUI accident. It was...
So he wrecked the truck while he was drunk.
Okay.
That's even worse. And he stopped making payments on it.
Your Honor, he actually wasn't making payments on the vehicle. I have evidence here.
That even for the 7 months he wasn't making
Exactly.
payments on the truck. Did you make all the payments during that 7-month period, sir? You have proof of that, I assume.
Yes, I do.
Good. Get out your proof that you made all the payments.
You want me to bring it up?
No.
Okay.
Give it to him. I see one payment in December, Nissan Motors for $470.
Mm-hmm.
I have
Just a second. I see one in November for $490. December 28th. Well, you wouldn't have made two ones. So I see two payments, sir.
No, I did make 2 payments in December.
I see two payments, sir. What happened to 7?
I wasn't able to gather proof of all the payments
Well,
because
then you
they were
didn't make
made
the
from
payments.
different
Hold on a
checking
second.
accounts.
You don't have proof, then it doesn't exist. Okay, so you weren't making regular payments, and then you wrecked the car. Did you wreck the car in a DUI? The answer is yes or no.
Yes.
Where is the truck now?
It's in an auto body shop in Denver.
How much did you purchase the truck for?
The original loan was signed in the amount of $24,422.32.
Why do you think they're going to come after you for this loan instead of him?
Because upon signing the agreement, I signed it along with him as a co-signer, co-buyer of the vehicle. So therefore, I'm responsible for it as well.
Mm-hmm. And you want this money to send to the auto body shop?
I want the money to be sent to Nissan Motor Acceptance towards the payments on the truck.
So you want it sent to Nissan Motors where the loan is outstanding?
Exactly.
Okay, good. And you, Mr. Strauss, have a counterclaim that is one of the most unique that I've heard. It is your claim, Bert, I want you to pay careful attention to this.
I always do.
Good. That when Mr. Strauss decided to move to Colorado, he suggested that they sell the truck in Arizona, but they couldn't find a buyer in Arizona. So Miss McGrath asked him to take the truck to Colorado to try to find a buyer in Colorado. And while he was doing that, she was going to pay for the insurance and half the car payments while he was using the car in Colorado. She didn't make half the car payments, and she didn't have insurance, which he says she should have had. So he's counterclaiming for his liability on the truck, despite the fact that his drunk driving caused this wreck. He's countersuing Miss McGrath for $4,850. That's your counterclaim.
That's correct.
Look at me. Forget it.
You don't think that's reasonable?
Do I think it's reasonable? I think it's the dumbest thing that I've heard so far today. And believe me, Mr. Strauss, I've heard a lot of dumb things today. A lot. You drove drunk, you wrecked the car. It's your responsibility to take care of it. But for your behavior, we wouldn't be standing here today. Yours! Nobody else's. You just lucky that you didn't kill anybody in the DUI. Lucky you didn't injure somebody, or did you?
No.
Good. So all you did was wreck your truck. She wasn't sitting in the passenger seat. She wasn't plying you with alcohol. Is that right?
Can I explain that the accident was incited by the other party, and he'd been drinking as well? He thought I cut him off or something, and he tried to
I don't
cause
give a rat's behind if the other driver was drinking too. You were drinking. I'm entering a judgment in the amount of $5,000. The check will be made payable to Nissan Motors Acceptance. Thank you very much. That's all.
Oh, he's our excuse. You may step out.
She's a very difficult person to deal with.
Devin lies. I can't ever believe what he says.
She has a tendency to act like a child sometimes.
He told me he had the vehicle insured when it clearly wasn't.
And so, that was that.
I really didn't want to be in the relationship anymore. I wasn't happy.
I'm glad that she can take care of me now.
Well, don't trust anybody.
Corey and Tammy Shanks are suing Corey's ex-girlfriend, Melissa Blankenship, for damaging his truck when she ran into a mailbox.
All rise.
That's case number 44 on the calendar in the matter of Shanks versus Blankenship. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Shanks, this lady is your former wife, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But you are now back together and trying to reconcile.
Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Blankenship was your girlfriend
Yes, ma'am.
for a brief period of time.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is the complaint, although the complaint is written by your wife, really has to do with you. So we're going to find out exactly what it's all about. You claim that Miss Blankenship damaged a truck. It was a truck that belonged to you. She hit a mailbox or something with it, is that right?
Yes.
And you want her to pay for the damages to that truck.
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Blankenship says that she did, in fact, have an accident with the truck, hit the mailbox, there was some minor damage, she told you about it, and at some point you told her to forget about it because you had moved her in with her children or child?
My child.
With her child into another house that you owned, and she relocated because you were together. Then when you decided to go back to your wife, she was told that she had to vacate the property immediately.
She had exactly a week and a half to
A week.
clear the vacant.
And the suggestion is because you told her she had to get out of the house within a week, you told her to just forget about the damage to the truck. When were you divorced, Mr. Shanks?
I was getting ready to go through the divorce in June 2005.
When did you meet Miss Blankenship?
About the same time, about June.
Okay. And when did you purchase the second house?
Obtained the house around June, July, in between there.
And when did Miss Blankenship move into the house with her daughter?
When the house closed, and it was in August.
And that was at your suggestion?
Well,
you were together?
Yes, but, Your Honor, it was more or less where she wanted to more or less move in. You know, she asked me to move in, and the stipulation was if she did move in, she was supposed to obtain the home, take care of everything while I was gone since I'm an over-the-road truck driver, and she was going to start up a daycare with herself and her witness.
So what you're saying is she moved into the house, but she was supposed to pay all the bills in the house?
No.
From the daycare?
No, it was more or less like she wanted to start up the daycare.
Well, what did that have to do with you, Mr. Shanks?
Well, really, it doesn't, Your Honor.
Well, so then I'm not interested in it if it doesn't have anything to do with you. Okay, so she moved into the house, and when you weren't on the road in your truck, where did you stay?
I only stayed in that home maybe one night.
With her?
Yes, one night.
And you shared a room?
Yes.
Before she moved into the house, where was she living?
She was living in an apartment complex.
How many nights did you spend there?
Maybe 2 at the most, ma'am.
And when you stayed there, did you share a room?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you purchased this new house, was it the idea that you would be living there as a family when you weren't on the road?
No, ma'am.
What was the idea of the new house, sir?
The idea of the new home is I wanted to move away from my old home state where I used to live at, and I just wanted to start over myself. I mean, the only reason I let Miss Blankenship move in was the idea of her wanting to start up the daycare.
Mr. Shanks, you're having second thoughts about this, sir, because of the lady standing next to you. But your conversation to me doesn't make sense. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't make sense that you bought another house in another area and Miss Blankenship was moving in there to start a daycare center. That doesn't make sense, sir. I haven't even asked her anything. So don't try to pull my leg. I don't like it. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
If you had second thoughts about Miss Blankenship and your relationship and you wanted to go home to your wife, that's fine. But don't lie. I don't like it. Now let's get back to the truck. At the time that Miss Blankenship damaged the truck, she called you. Where were you?
I was out on the road.
And what did she tell you?
That the truck was hit by the mailbox.
No, she didn't say that at all. Don't be a wise guy. What did she tell you?
She told me she hit the mailbox.
That she hit the mailbox, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she apologize?
Yes, she was very apologetic to it, yes.
Now, at that time, had you gone back to your wife yet?
No.
Did you tell her that you were thinking about going back to your wife?
No.
Had you told her that she had to move her property out?
I told her, when I told her to move out the property, and this is going to bring up the daycare again, that she wasn't getting the daycare going, and the home wasn't being taken care of.
When she used your truck, what was she using it for?
In the moving process, I think.
So you were told her to move, in or out?
It was, I'm pretty sure it was in, ma'am.
Were you moving in or out when you were using the truck?
Actually, when I wrecked the truck, he was in town. He asked me to go get jumper cables, I think it was, so he could get his truck jumped because the batteries went dead.
So he was in town.
Where was he in town?
He was over by the apartment complex that I used to live at, and I had already moved into the home.
Okay. So that was sometime in August?
Yes.
Now, after you had this problem with the truck, you went into a mailbox.
Right.
Did he ever spend the night with you in the house again?
Yes.
How many times?
I think he was there one more night, and then he left.
After the damage to the truck?
After the damage to the pickup.
Now, did you see the damage to the truck, Mr. Shanks?
Yes, ma'am.
Where was the truck when you saw it?
I'm pretty sure it was at the apartment complex, ma'am.
Apartment complex or the house?
I think it was at the apartment complex.
So it was drivable?
Yes, it was drivable.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding your seeing it at the apartment complex, sir.
I was,
What were you doing there? What were you doing there?
I would think I was getting ready to leave, but I can't recollect it, you know? I mean,
Getting ready to leave what?
in the truck, in my semi.
You mean getting ready to leave her apartment?
Yes, the semi was parked at the apartment.
At her apartment?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what did you say to Miss Blankenship, sir, when she told you that she had had this accident with the truck, and you saw the truck, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What'd you say?
I told her, I said it needs to be replaced, you need to get it fixed, and it needs to be done. I mean, I was really upset about my truck being wrecked.
Well, it wasn't wrecked, sir, because you said you saw it at the apartment complex. So it wasn't wrecked, it was drivable.
Yes, it was drivable, but the way them Dodges are set up and everything, they've got plastic and little sheet metal and all that stuff on them anymore, and just hitting the mailbox did do a lot of damage to the front of that truck. I mean, it's very noticeable.
You want to show me a picture of it, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
There's also pictures in the mailbox post and at the house where the mailbox sits.
Truck isn't wrecked, sir. It's got a little damage on it. There's some bumper scratches. Big deal.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
So why are you here? He ruined her life.
She spent 2 nights in her car because she had nowhere to go.
And later today,
Did she tell you the child was yours?
Yes, ma'am.
And the paternity test said the child could not have been yours.
I wasn't there when he swabbed my daughter's mouth. As far as I'm concerned, he could have, I don't know.
He could have.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Corey and Tammy Shanks say Corey's ex-girlfriend, Melissa Blankenship, ran his Dodge truck into a mailbox. Melissa is countersuing for the return of furniture.
You see what your problem is, sir? First, you moved her out of her apartment with her child into a house that you had purchased. And the plan was for you to live there when you weren't on the road. That was the plan. I mean, that's clear. There's no question about that. Then you decide to get back with your wife. And your wife is irritated that the truck is damaged. Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's too bad. What are you mad at her for?
I'm not, ma'am.
Well, you shouldn't be. He's the one who disrupted her life, moved her out of her apartment into a house, and then told her she had to move because he was going back with you. Don't you see who the villain here is? It's not her. Oh, you get it? Did I have to explain that to you? No. So why are you here? Over a couple of $100 damage to a truck? He ruined her life. That's not her fault. That's his fault. Probably yours, too. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
I believe her when she says that the reason she was moving your truck was because you asked her to go get jumper cables with your truck.
I can't remember that far back, Your Honor.
Well, if you can't remember, she does.
I know the truck was driven without my permission.
That's not true. If you asked her to go get jumper cables, she used your truck. She was living in your house. You were sleeping with her. You had an intimate relationship. Get over it. You made a mistake. And grow up. Now, what stuff did she leave behind in the house?
I've got pictures of the furniture.
And where is the furniture that she left behind?
Is that
Take your hands out of your pockets.
It's at the address of the home in St. Charles.
Where do you want him to deliver your property? He's going to deliver it. He caused the problem, right?
Yes, ma'am.
To Mary's apartment. Miss Kelly's apartment.
All of her property goes back to her. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And you make sure that it gets there. It's your responsibility. You had a change of heart, sir. You have to behave like a grown-up. Just because you act irresponsibly most of the time with the women in your life doesn't mean you're going to act irresponsibly here. I mean, I read the papers. You relocated this lady and her child with a promise that you were going to have a life together, that she was going to start a business in the home. And because you had a change of heart, you told her, sorry, you have to move. Now, You moved once, now you have to move again. Where did you move to? Back to the complex?
No, I had lost my apartment because of him promising we were going to have a life together.
Where are you living now?
I've relocated closer to home, closer to my parents.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Yes.
May I say something?
Yes.
She spent 2 nights in her car because she had nowhere to go.
My daughter stayed with a friend because I did not want to be a burden on anyone else. I let my daughter stay so she would not be without.
How old is she?
She's 11. She was 10 at the time.
You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
She gets all of her property back. Make sure that that happens, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Take care of the truck yourself. It's the least you could do. And tell your wife to get over it. You got it.
Yes, ma'am.
Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He got back with his wife. Tammy was mad because he got with me. We share a life together. She didn't like the fact that I had permission to have the truck, something that she could never ever have.
Albert Lee is suing pilot instructor Ed Meyer for damage resulting from Ed moving his plane.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2145, Lee versus Meyer.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lee, you are an amateur pilot?
Yes, I was yes.
And you owned your own plane?
I bought it to train in, yes.
When did you purchase the plane?
In, I believe, April of 2021.
Did you buy it new or used?
I bought it used.
What kind of plane is it?
It's a Cirrus SR-22, 2010 type Golf.
What did you pay for it?
I paid $420,000 for it, I believe.
Is there a mortgage on the...
Yes, there is.
How much?
It's $2204 per month.
You paid $425,000 for the plane?
Yeah, I put a down payment on it. The outstanding balance is $347,000. The payment per month is $2,022.
I don't need the payment per month. I just wanted to know what you paid for it and how much you put into the plane.
Yes.
The defendant is a pilot, licensed pilot, and he was giving you some training on the plane.
Certified flight instructor, yes.
It is your claim that at some point, you'll tell me when, that the defendant was operating the plane by himself. You weren't there, and he was moving it from one part of the FBO to another part, and he hit a cone and caused substantial damage to the propeller and the engine. And while you had your insurance did cover some of it, according to you, it did not cover all of the expenses, and you want Mr. Meyer to be responsible for that. So it's a simple question. Mr. Meyer, do you remember the date that you were operating the plane when Mr. Lee was not there?
Yes.
What date?
It was in April sometime.
April of 2022?
Correct.
Do you remember the date, Mr. Lee?
Yes.
What date?
It's April 22nd.
Would that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. And from what I read in the papers, Mr. Meyer had in fact taken you out, but then the weather got bad. You decided that you would make your way home and that he would get the plane home when the weather was better.
Correct.
And that was on or about April 22nd.
I flew home on a commercial flight the day before on April 21st.
And you stayed with the plane?
Yes.
Now, would you agree, Mr. Meyer, that if in fact you hit an object with the plane, it would be your responsibility?
Yes.
Because it would mean that there was some sort of negligence involved.
Right.
And then there would be the issue of damages. Mr. Lee, you were not present when this incident happened.
I was not.
Not present.
I was not present. I was able...
No, you were not present.
I was not present.
That's the answer. Was this witness present?
He was not present, but he was the one responsible for procuring the evidence on what happened and how the propeller was damaged.
Who does he work for?
He has his own flight school, and he also manages my airplane in terms of the maintenance and the upkeep.
Okay. Could you step up, please? Tell me your last name.
Last name is Williams.
Mr. Williams, were you charged with gathering the evidence to determine what happened to the plane on the 22nd of April?
Yes, I was.
And you're paid a monthly fee by the plaintiff to manage his plane?
That's correct.
Did you retain the defendant as an instructor, or did Mr. Lee?
That was both decided by Mr. Lee and Mr. Myers to fly for him.
But you
He's
did
an
not...
independent contractor at that.
You did not have anything to do with, as the manager of the plane. You didn't have anything to do with selecting Mr. Meyer.
I did select Mr. Meyer to fly with Albert.
You did?
Yes.
Okay. Because were you the one who introduced him to Mr. Meyer?
That's correct.
When, Mr. Lee, did you start to work with Mr. Meyer?
It was probably a prior flight where we flew to San Francisco for a business meeting I had. After that, I believe it was...
In what month?
Roughly about the same month.
In April?
Yeah, in April.
So you didn't know him for a long time?
No, not very long.
I'm going to get back to you in a minute, Mr. Williams. Prior to the defendant, had anybody else been an instructor for you?
Yes. Clinton was my primary instructor, but I flew with some other instructors as well.
But it wasn't until the month that this incident occurred that you had been connected with the defendant?
Correct.
Okay. Now, sir, how were you advised that the plane that you managed was in an accident?
I received a phone call from Ed saying that there was a problem.
From whom?
From Mr. Myers, that there was a problem with the aircraft after he taxied and did the run-up and returned the aircraft back to Signature in Las Vegas. We notified and contacted a...
Did you ask, what you would usually ask is what happened?
Yeah, what happened?
Just a second, and what did he say to you?
He said that he was having instrument problems with the aircraft and he wasn't able to take off, so he returned the aircraft. At that point in time, I contacted a Cirrus Service Center. I had 2 technicians go out and look at the aircraft, see what was wrong. At the time, the technicians found that they...
Don't tell me what they found.
Okay.
You can't tell me what they found. It's hearsay.
They send me pictures of the damage of the propeller.
May I see the photographs? Okay, so that's a fresh damage.
Correct.
Can I scroll this?
Yes, you may.
Or it's just one? Okay, so you have a picture of that. You have a picture of the cone that has a slice in it.
Correct, that's the object he hit. We also have a video showing the plane taxi and hitting the cone at the
I'd like to see that as well.
Okay.
Okay, let's see what we got.
As you can see where the...
Just one second, Mr. Meyer, is that a fair and accurate representation of where the plane was before you moved it?
It should be on on the far left side of that Learjet.
Okay. Oh. Mr. Meyer, do you see that you went over a cone?
It's interesting. I didn't even notice there was a cone.
You may not notice it, but you see it now.
Yes.
Okay. Your hitting of the cone caused damage to that plane. I mean, you're not talking about flying a 747. You're talking about a little single-prop plane? Yeah, they like those planes you put together, we used to put together with rubber bands. I wouldn't put my behind in one of those planes for all the money in the world.
Albert Lee claims pilot instructor Ed Meyer is responsible for damage after Ed moved Albert's plane.
Okay.
In all of my years of flying, which is pretty significant, I was an airline pilot too, I've never, ever experienced that in my life.
Okay, but you see it now.
Yes.
It's not an on purpose. It's, you know, that's why they call them accidents. We don't mean for them to happen.
Right.
We don't mean for them to happen, but you do see that the plane did hit a cone.
Right.
Okay, and I have photographs of the cone that has a slice in it, and the same kind of slice from one of the propellers. Now, so that's conceded that Mr. Meyer did, in fact, hit the cone, which in all probability caused damage to the plane, caused damage to the propeller. Now, tell me about your insurance.
The insurance covered the propeller. They covered the teardown of the engine. When something strikes the propeller, they have to tear apart the engine, make sure the components...
Do you have those,
that
paperwork for me? I'd like to see it.
Okay, so here is the insurance-covered portion, and here is my covered portion that I had to come out of pocket to pick up the plane.
Okay.
And I can explain both invoices. And if you flip to the last page, that'll have the total. Insurance covered about 60-something thousand for the propeller and the engine teardown.
Okay, so the damaged propeller, Mr. Williams, causes you to have to take apart the engine, fix the engine if there was damage to the engine. Am I correct?
That's correct. The FAA requires Anytime you strike an object with a propeller, the engine has to be inspected in the component parts. So they
Component parts of the engine?
Yeah, with the damage, potential damage of the engine. Internal damage that could be caused by striking an object.
Okay. The insurance covered how much, sir? Mr. Lee?
It's, it's on the invoice 60, I think it was 63,000, 64,000. It's on the last page.
The last page shows
a deposit of
$63,000.
Yes, that's it.
The deposit was 40, balance due was 23. Did the insurance company pay the entire 63?
This entire
$63,000. This is what was submitted to them.
Yes.
Okay, now I'd like you to take a look at this, Mr. Meyer. No, I'm going to actually ask Mr. Williams to take a look at this document. These are the items, Mr. Williams, that Mr. Lee says were uncovered. I would like you to go through all those items and tell me which of those items relate to the engine and which do not.
Okay, is this the total?
Carefully, because I'm going to potentially ask you about each individual thing, because there looks to me like some things that bear no relation to an engine.
Okay, so most of the items that you see that are airworthiness on the airframe are the items that need to be inspected or replaced from the teardown. So your item 1, item 2, 3, 4, item 5, 6, 7, 8. These are all items that the repair shop goes through the engine and assesses whether it needs.
Well, tell me how the brakes would be impacted.
I don't think
impacted by hitting the.
Which invoice?
And I don't know. But how brakes would be impacted by hitting a nose cone.
Brake lining, I don't know what that is.
Okay. Yeah, some of these items, Your Honor, such as one of these items, the brake lines, as you pointed out, is probably not part of the.
Well, that's what I want you to go through, sir.
Okay.
Do you understand? I want you to take a marker, a pen, and circle, because I don't know a whole lot about airplanes, but I know a little bit about airplanes. I know what's routine maintenance and what has to be taken care of, because a plane either falls on its nose or falls on its tail, both of which I've experienced.
Well, this is a small invoice. This is not your. This is a 12.
Mr. Williams, don't ask him. I didn't ask you to have a conference with him.
Okay.
I asked you to look at that. You're the management company. I want you to strike those items that are not related to this accident and go through them very carefully, because.
Can I make a comment? Okay.
Nope.
To you directly?
Nope.
Okay.
Can I ask you something?
Can you ask me something?
Yeah. Well, they should tell you those cones are made of plastic.
I don't care. They're heavy cones. You hit the cone. And the plane flew perfectly fine before you hit the cone. It didn't run after you hit the cone. You don't have to be a genius to figure out the cone your hitting of the cone caused damage to that plane. I mean, you're not talking about flying a 747. You're talking about a little there's a single prop plane.
Right.
Yeah. They're like those planes you used to put together with rubber bands. I wouldn't put my behind in one of those planes for all the money in the world.
The only items I can see, Your Honor, are 2 items that may not be related to the accident, items 7 and 8.
Okay. May I have that back, please, sir? And you are familiar with planes, sir, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what you're saying is item.
The circled item.
7 and 8.
Correct.
So we have.
There's a couple of invoices.
We have right and left main gear, which is 143 plus 270 plus 66. What about item 9? Pitch, trim, jab, nut, loose. What is that?
Probably what they do during the inspection and the teardown, they go through the aircraft itself, make sure it's airworthy. So they probably caught another item or 2. You can probably put that on item that's wasn't part of the accident.
The big ticket items, adding up all of these items, Mr. Meyer, that probably have no relation to the accident which you caused.
Correct.
Still bring the total amount to more than this court's jurisdictional limit. Can you tell me, sir, why your insurance, Mr. Williams, let's go back to you. You manage this plane. Can you tell me why Mr. Lee's insurance didn't cover all the damage to the plane?
A lot of the prospective renters or instructors that everybody uses, or we used in this case, carry their own insurance for this type of incident. Their insurance covers basically downtime, loss of operation, or in this case...
You mean Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Would have his own. Do you have your own insurance?
No.
No. Don't you do a check to find out if they have their own insurance before you recommend someone?
He had insurance, but it was lapsed.
If you have insurance that's lapsed, then you have no insurance.
Yeah, that's correct.
So you're lucky that he's not suing you.
Albert Lee is accusing pilot instructor Ed Meyer of hitting a cone and damaging his plane. Ed says Albert was already paid by his insurance company.
Okay. Mr. Williams, you were the one who recommended
That's
Mr.
correct,
Meyer.
we did.
Don't you do a check to find out if they have their own insurance before you recommend someone?
He had insurance, but it was lapsed.
Well, that he didn't have insurance. I get that all the time. If you have insurance that's lapsed, then you have no insurance.
Yeah. As a flight school, our instructors are required to carry the insurance.
Okay, but that didn't happen here.
That's correct.
So you're lucky that he's not suing you, because you managed the plane for him. And you recommended him, Mr. Williams, you know. When you have a management company that manages your plane, they're supposed to make certain that if you have a certain kind of plane, that you have pilots certified to fly those kinds of planes. And if they give me a list of pilots, and those pilots aren't certified to fly the kind of plane that I might have, then it's the fault of the management company.
In this case here, the plaintiff and the defendant were working together as far as their payment and the fees they were going to charge.
That's okay. They may have been working head to head. I mean, it was Mr. Meyer's fault, but I'm just telling you that Mr. Lee relies on your advice. What business are you in, Mr. Lee?
I do commercial real estate. I sell shopping centers and office buildings.
Okay, that's not his business. That's why he hires you. And if he hires you, he asks you for recommendations as to where to get the plane repaired for an instructor. Now, the fact that he may pay him independently, he's relied on you for information. So I suggest, Mr. Williams, that you tighten up your ship a little bit. Mr. Meyer, you're responsible to the plaintiff for the damage that you caused his plane. Why did you let your insurance lapse?
It had lapsed. I just didn't even realize the fact that it had lapsed. I just realized the fact that when this came about, that's what happened.
Well, when was the last time you paid premiums?
Probably about a year before that.
Anything else you want to tell me, Mr. Meyer? You owe him $10,000. You caused the damage. You have to fix it. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I understand her point, the fact that what she saw.
I thought she's very fair.
These cones are made out of plastic.
It's hard to believe. It sounds like a gunshot when he hit the cone and triggered several warnings. And for him to say he had no idea, it's a little bit hard to believe.
They don't have much weight to them.
With the loud bang after you hit it, it's quite obvious that you should have stopped and shut down and inspect the damage.
There normally is never a cone at the 12 o'clock position. They're at the left side and the right side.
They place cones all the way around the aircraft, and it's part of your responsibility as a pilot in command to do a walk around pre-flight, make sure there's no object in front of your aircraft.
When I taxied out halfway down, that's when I recognized there was an ICAS message that came on.
I finally got it back, and no more student pilots won't let any CFIs fly for a while.
You know what I thought about in this case, Sarah? That lay people have to look at something, lay people, and while I'm a judge and have certain expertise, I have no expertise in reading slips that show what's been done on a car or an airplane or a train or a boat.
But we have common sense.
But we have common sense. And your brakes are not part of an engine. Yeah. You know, you have an engine job, and then you have a brake job, and you have a...
I saw where you were going.
Different kind of... And, you know, if you have an accident that impacts on the right driver's door, if you put in a new wheel casing in the left rear door, well, that has nothing to do with an accident.
Probably just an oversight. He did state that those two items were not part of, you know.
He did.
He did at the end, but
He did.
it just feels a little uneasy when they try and slip those things in there, that just common sense doesn't ring true, that it comes from the same
front, back, the head of a horse, the tail of a horse, it doesn't fit in. And there's really no difference between not having insurance when you're driving a car and not having insurance as a flight instructor. Yeah, that's pretty serious.
I would think there would be a more rigorous check on that before you get behind an aircraft, the wheel of an aircraft.
Absolutely. You would think that there would be. Yeah. There's a flaw in the system someplace. Okay, I'm glad nobody was hurt.
Yeah.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Case 2111, Banks versus Mitchell. All parties, please step forward.
Queen Vanessa Banks is suing her former friend, Fulton Mitchell, for an unpaid loan and stolen money.
Miss Banks, what kind of work do you do?
I'm a city contractor for the city and county of San Francisco.
How long have you been working for the city of San Francisco?
30 years.
You a full-time employee?
No, I'm a contractor, so I'm used as needed.
Well, in the last month, how many days have you worked?
Like around 40 hours the whole month.
How do you support yourself?
I'm on disability.
How long have you been on disability?
Since roughly like around February of 2022.
When you applied for disability, were you originally rejected or did they accept your claim?
I was rejected 3 times, actually.
So when you started collecting in February of 2022, you got a big check for back disability.
Yes, ma'am.
I know my business. How much of a check did you get?
I got $7,000 the first time, and they just submitted me like $8,000 a month or 2 ago, and then there are some more coming. It ain't all came yet.
Mm-hmm. They advised you, because you were rejected, as you said, 2 or 3 times, that there would be a total amount coming to you. You got a letter from the administration.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And what is the total amount that they told you you would be receiving in increments?
I think it was like $18,000.
And you had a lawyer at the appeal?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when you applied for disability, did you say that there was no kind of work that you could do? I'm jaundiced. I know that people put money in somebody else's bank when they want to hide it from the government, creditors, a spouse looking for support, all what I would call nefarious reasons to put money in somebody else's bank.
Queen Vanessa Banks claims her former friend, Fulton Mitchell, stole money from their shared bank account.
Now, when you applied for disability, did you say that there was no kind of work that you could do?
Well, actually...
No, not actually. They're giving you $18,000. They said that they should have taken your case when you first applied for disability. So they had to have found that you could not hold gainful employment. That's what it's all about when you get federal disability.
Right.
Right. So I want to know what this 40 hours a month that you worked last month as an independent contractor. What kind of independent contractor were you?
I actually sit on Zooms, and I am a consultant, so I'm on Zooms most of the time.
And when you're not on Zooms, where are you?
At home.
What do you consult about?
I am an urban consultant, so I work with various people that's trying to find out about urban living and mental health, basically working around mental health.
How are you paid?
They might mail
No,
a
not
check.
might.
They mail a check.
What do you do with that check?
I usually cash it at a store in the community.
You cash it. What is your hourly wage?
As a consultant?
Yeah.
I'm usually paid like $130 an hour.
And what's the amount of money you get from disability a month, not counting these extra payments for when they denied you disability?
$1,000.
So you get $1,000 a month plus $130 an hour times the last month you said was 40 hours. So you make $4,000 or $5,000 a month from your consulting job for the city?
No way.
Well, am I correct, Whitney, that Ms. Banks said that she worked about 40 hours last month?
Can I explain something? Not
No.
all.
No.
She said around 40 hours the whole month.
Okay. Would you tell me what she says she earns an hour?
It's usually $130 an hour.
$5,200. And when you get the checks for these consulting things, you take them and you cash them. That's either a yes or a no. Do you work as a sole independent contractor, or do you have an LLC or a corporation?
No, ma'am.
So the checks are made out to you?
Yes, ma'am.
As an independent contractor?
Yes, ma'am.
You have to pay your own taxes, so you're 1099 from all these people?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you declare on your taxes last year?
I didn't file taxes last year, ma'am.
Why not? You said you've been working in this capacity on and off for 30 years.
Because,
for the
ma'am,
city.
where I come from, a lot of the work is volunteer work considered, and you are given a stipend. And some of the work I do, sometimes I don't even get paid, but I still do the work.
Listen, you know exactly where I'm going. We're two savvy people. When you cash those checks, because this is what the case is about, for some reason, because I'm trying to figure out why somebody puts money into somebody else's bank account, because part of this case is about that. You and Mr. Mitchell became friends, maybe a little bit more than friends, I don't know. At some point, according to you, you gave him money to hold in his bank account because his bank account was closer to where you are and you didn't want to go on two buses to where your bank was. Am I getting that right? Is that what you...
No, ma'am.
Let's see. I'm telling you why I made these inquiries to you. I was struggling to find a way to get access to my money. I always took the bus to the bank, but during COVID, public transportation shut down. It was completely unreliable, and I was in a bind. This is what you write. When Fulton heard about my problem, he offered to hold my money for me in his bank. He said that he didn't keep any money in that account, so it would be perfect, because his bank was right where I worked. I only know of several reasons why strangers put money in somebody else's account. You know, I may have an account with Sarah. I may have an account with one of my other grandchildren. I have an account with my husband. But I've had a best friend for 70 years, another best friend for 30 years. And I would never think of putting money in their bank account because there are banks all over the place. I'm just telling you, you know, I'm jaundiced. I know that people put money in somebody else's bank when they want to hide it, when they want to hide it from the government, creditors, a spouse looking for support, a spouse looking for alimony, a contractor who has a judgment against them. All what I would call nefarious reasons to put money in somebody else's bank. But let us say that you did put money in this bank account, and you say that money was withdrawn. Your money was withdrawn from that account to pay his taxes. Is that what you're alleging?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How much was withdrawn from his account that only his name was on? Or was your name on it too?
My name is on it too.
Oh, there we go. Now I can understand it, why you might owe taxes. I don't know anything about his business, but I can certainly understand that you might. Did you receive notice that the IRS took money out of this bank account, which was then a joint bank account?
No, I did not.
So if her name was on it, it was a joint account.
It was not. It was my account, and I added her name to my account.
Okay. That makes it a joint account.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I didn't have that information in here because joint account is absolutely different. Joint account means that the money belongs to both of you. Now, what makes you think that the money that was taken out of the account was to pay his taxes?
Because I have proof.
I'd like to see it. What account is this? Whose money is that?
Mine.
Explain that to me. This is a deposit here for $988.68. What is that?
That's when the pandemic hit and the struggles started getting hard trying to get money. And being that me and him was business partners, that's when he decided to try to help me out.
You know, I neither have the time or the interest to hear about the nuances of this stuff because I don't have the wherewithal, either emotionally or structurally to figure out the whole scam. I haven't figured it all out yet, but I'm beginning to figure it out. So you deposited $988 and then withdrew at some point in May. That was on June 9th. I don't have the rest of it here, but you withdrew $1,600 from that account on May 25th. Do you remember what that was for?
May 25th?
Yeah, May 25th, $1,600. June 3rd, tax levy, $2,711.
The May 25th is because that's my daughter's birthday, and I spent time with my daughter. And then the June 3rd tax levy is why I'm here with you today.
What kind of business were you in together with the defendant?
You want me to answer that?
No, you answer it. What
type of business were you together? He works for the city and county. I'm a grassroots organizer, so I work within his organization so that we can do things together.
That's not true.
Your Honor, I have proof. I do work with his organization. I'm putting on a Halloween event.
I don't care.
His logo
Let's understand each other. I don't care because something doesn't smell right for me. And if something doesn't smell right with this nose, it's usually accurate. Usually. You said you took out $1,000. When and for what purpose?
I took out the $1,000 and I gave it to Ms. Banks.
That's not what you said.
What did I say, Mr.
It's not what you said. It's not what you swore to.
Queen Vanessa Banks is suing her former friend, Fulton Mitchell, for an unpaid loan and stolen money.
When someone puts money in somebody else's bank account, it's because they're trying to somehow shield that money from some sort of scrutiny. If your only source of income, which you would like me to believe, is this $1,000 from disability and the $18,000 that you're going to get for retroactive disability.
She was on some other kind of services also. I don't know whether it was SSI or something. When she first came to me, she wanted me to hold the money and put it in my account because she didn't want it to mess up her money.
That's not true. That's not true, Your Honor. He started helping me in 2019. In 2020, he asked me for a loan to help one of his daughters of $1,900. We were both trying to start up a business. We didn't know the pandemic was going to come, Your Honor. We was trying to start up a business.
I've never tried to start up a business.
Just a second.
Your Honor, I got proof because he lying to you.
Just a second. I don't care that you were starting a business. It doesn't make any difference to me. It really doesn't make any difference to me. You had a joint account, and the IRS took money out of that joint account. Was that your tax debt?
I don't know.
The answer is you don't know. Okay, well, this says that it was the levy from California Franchise Tax Board was against Fulton W. Mitchell.
That's me.
That's what it's...
I asked her to show me that. I said, prove it to me. No, she never showed me that ever.
Okay, so my question to you is, sir, because you have to pay your own taxes.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? You would acknowledge that this bank account had only her funds in it?
No, it had my funds in there, too.
Show me any deposits that you made into this account.
Well, I had money in there way before I put her money into my account. It's been in my account for over 10, 15 years.
What I want to see, Mr. Fulton,
yes,
is any place where you deposited $27.11, because that's what they took out.
No, I didn't deposit $27.11 into that account.
Ever?
No.
Okay, good. This responsibility is yours. You would acknowledge that it's yours?
Yes.
Okay, so that's $2,700, which you in fact owe her. She probably owes IRS or the state of California more money because I'm not sure that they know where all this money is going. Did you take any other money out of that account?
No, ma'am.
Yes, you did. You took out $1,000. You acknowledge you took out $1,000 by accident, you said, sir, and you said you paid it back.
She got it back.
Okay, well, then don't say,
shh,
don't speak. You got into enough trouble, right, so far. You said you took out $1,000. When and for what purpose?
I took out the $1,000 and I gave it to Ms. Banks.
That's not what you said.
What did I say, Ms. Judy?
It's not what you said. It's not what you swore to. You said, there was a time when I accidentally withdrew $1,000 from the account that belonged to Vanessa, but I paid her back in June 2022.
There you go.
I said, what do you mean, there you go? I said, when did you take money out of her account?
That was the only time I took the money out.
Well, tell me about it.
Vanessa started harassing me. She started showing up to my job and just doing all kind of stuff, so I was just trying to get rid of her.
And?
So I took the money out and gave it to her. And I'm...
Just a second. Put your hand down. Don't you understand what you signed?
Yeah.
You said, I accidentally took money out of her account, but then I gave it back to her, because if you accidentally took it out, it means it didn't belong to you. When did you accidentally take it out, and when did you give it back to her?
I took out the money, and the money was given to her. That was it. That was it. I was done with it. I was done with her. I was done with all of it.
There was a time when I accidentally withdrew $1,000 from the account that belonged to Vanessa, but I paid that back in June 2022.
Those words are mixed up a little bit there.
That's what I read. That's your answer, sir. As for the rest of the money she claims I owe her, it's all a bunch of lies. I never took a $1,900 loan and don't owe money for the IRS. Well, you do owe money for the IRS, because one of the things I think that everybody has to pay is their own tax levy and their own child support. You would acknowledge that.
I agree.
Okay, tell me about this loan of $1,900, Ms. Banks.
Mr. Mitchell had fell into a lot of hardship in the pandemic, and he came to me and asked me, could I loan him $1,900 to help out one of his daughters? And I gave it to him, and he agreed to pay it back, and we was just like trying to handle business together. And I thought he was a friend.
Show me proof that you gave him $1,900.
It was cash, Your Honor. The $1,000 he's saying he handed me back in June, that was from the $1,900.
I'm not following you, madam. Are you saying that he in total owed you, forget the IRS, $2,900, $1,000 that he took in 19?
He asked for $1,900
Never asked
cash.
me for $1,900.
I gave him $1,900 in cash.
Not true.
Then he paid me back $1,000 in June of 2022.
You have money in my account. Why would I ask you for $1,900? I would just go in there and grab it. That makes no sense.
Just a second. Why are you talking to her?
I'm sorry.
Where do you think you are?
I'm sorry. I apologize. She's never given me no $1,900. She's never given me anything in cash, period, ever.
I have proof.
I'm willing to look at it.
Yes. I told him that I needed to move forward with it, and if he don't give me what I need, I'll put it in writing. So
well, you may put it in writing. Well, you sent this to him, and it says acknowledgement of monetary debt in the amount of $4,600. You typed this up, and he never signed it.
No, he never signed it.
Yeah. Well, then it's meaningless. You can type up anything. I can type up something that says I own all of Sarah's real estate. If she doesn't sign it, I don't own anything.
Well, that's where $1,000 came from, because he was trying to cover that.
Yeah. You know, somehow I think I'm dealing with, I'm not sure about one or two people who've managed to master the system. And
no, not at all.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. All I know is if somebody is working
5 years.
Just a second. Hey, just a second. There's a reason why she asked to be added to your bank account. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't look as if you're a foolish man. What was the reason she gave you for wanting to have a bank account where you were the primary on that bank account? What was the reason she gave you?
She gave me the reason that she didn't want it to mess up her income.
That's not true.
Just a second. So she said, I don't want it to
She said she didn't want to put it in her name because she didn't want to mess up her income that she had coming in.
Her income from what?
Some kind of assistance. I'm not sure exactly what it was.
Whatever. Anyway, got a nice windfall, $18,000. By the way, I have one other question for you. In your complaint, which you read and signed and swore to, Fulton heard about my problems with money and where to put it, and he offered to hold my money in his account. He said he doesn't keep any money in there, so it would be perfect, because his bank was right where I worked. Where was his bank, and where do you work?
I work in the community that I was born and raised in, which is Bayview.
Okay, I'm not going to get a straight answer. You owe her for her tax debt, nothing else, $2,700.
This court is adjourned.
That's it, you're done.
I'll watch her like every day.
It was fair.
I'm thankful that she saw what it was to what it was.
You know, she asked me to put some money in the account for her. I did.
I never had to harass him. We were business partners for 2 or 3 years.
I don't know if it was a business agreement or not.
Because I told him I want my money.
I'm just happy it's over with.
You know what I was thinking about? I was thinking that I wouldn't have had that information about Social Security disability unless Poppy was an administrative law judge with Social Security 40 years ago. And I remember exactly what the drill was. File, you rejected, you file, you rejected, and finally you have to hire a lawyer, and the lawyer gets a big chunk of the relief, and you get all your back payments. So I have a feeling I was dealing with two people who had a substantial skill set in how to negotiate and suck every dollar from the system, whether it was deserved or not.
Morgan Larson is suing defendant Chris Bumgardner for vandalism after his 16-year-old son damaged her car.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2101, Lawson versus Bumgardner.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Miss Larson, it is your claim that the defendant's son, I assume that's this young man over here, vandalized your car. And he vandalized your car by smashing in a side mirror.
Yes, ma'am.
Which required you to be without a car for a day while they fixed it. So you want his father, who was actually present at the time, to pay for the damage.
Yes, ma'am.
From what I gather, this happened on Father's Day, which was June 19th
Yes.
of this year, and you were going over to visit your father.
Yes.
For Father's Day. Stand up. What I gather from your complaint, was he sleeping?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Some sort of an altercation happened, which you'll tell me about in a moment. His father was called.
Yes, ma'am.
His father came. This kerfuffle continued, and when they were on their way out, this young man, whose name is?
Caden Bumgardner?
Caden.
Caden.
Caden smashed in your passenger mirror, and his father says, well, he actually saw him do that, but it was just pushing in the window, the mirror, and really all you had to do was pull it out, and it would have been fine.
Right.
That's your defense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's start out when you arrived at your father's house. What time?
I arrived at my father's about, I would say, about 11:15.
Okay. What happened?
And it woke up Caden in the process. Caden got upset.
What did he say? How did you know he was upset?
He started screaming and pretty much saying, why the heck are you coming in here, waking everybody up? You have no right to.
Okay.
And then after that, Caden got up and started yelling, started punching the walls, screaming. My father went in there, and then his father, Chris, ended up getting called to come get Caden.
How far do you live from where Miss Larson's father lives?
About 7 miles away.
How old is your son?
He's 16.
Is he the oldest one of your children, in the middle?
The youngest.
Any other children at home other than him?
No, ma'am.
So he's the baby and he's home?
Yes.
Who sets the rules for him?
Well, I do.
Where did you think he was going?
No, I knew he was over they had something to do for Mother's Day, and then they had
That was
another.
Father's Day.
Well, I know, but I'm saying for the entire
Mother's Day is in May, Father's Day is in June.
But they
usually don't have carryovers.
something planned, I don't know. But anyhow, yeah, he was over there.
Times have changed, life has changed. The only time you got to sleep outside your house when I was growing up was when you were outside in a pine box or a white dress. That was it. Those were your choices.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the way you could leave your parents' house, right? I chose the dress. All right. Now, Caden, I'm going to come around to you because, we're not talking about somebody losing 2 pints of blood.
Yeah.
Or somebody losing a finger.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to wake up a teenager at 11:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
I'm usually ready for dinner at 11:30 in the morning. But teenagers, they're still growing, so they sleep late. But you were particularly annoyed when Miss Larson came in, right?
Yes.
Why?
Well, she did put it the right way, but she didn't put it the right way because.
But just tell me why.
Well,
Don't look at her. Talk to me.
She didn't just wake her up. She came in there loud.
When she walked in, Caden, to a room in her father's house, what did she say? And tell me in what tone of voice she said it.
She said in a excited voice, but not like a mad voice, excited voice.
All right, and that got you mad.
No, that's not what got me mad.
What got you mad?
By the time I could even finish my sentence, she's already busted in through the door and was in my face saying, you got something to say to me.
Just a second. You're not following me. She came in, and the first thing you said was she was talking too loud, and I want to know what you said to her.
I didn't say nothing to her.
Nothing.
Nothing. I didn't even look at her.
And then she left, so...
She cussed at me, but then she walked in there and she later said...
Who cussed at you?
Her. And then she later said that
just
she
a
was
second, I didn't get to that part, that she cussed at you. If you didn't say anything to her, what would she cuss at you?
Because she got a phone call from there saying that she wants me to get ran out of the house. That's how this all started.
Just a second. Oh, that's a different story. Okay, so what you're saying to me is you believe that she came over for the purpose of getting you out of the house.
I believe so, yes, because that's what I got told.
Well, let us assume for a moment that's true. That would sound right to me. Get him out of the house. It's 11:30 in the morning on Father's Day. We want to have a party here. Get him out of the house. That would sound right on the money to moi. Right on the money. I mean, if that's what it was about. So I don't care if that's what it was about or not. Okay, your father comes. What happened when you got there, sir?
When I showed up, I went to the door, I knocked on it, they answered the door. It was pretty chaotic.
Look at me.
It was pretty chaotic.
Describe what chaotic is.
Okay, there was a bunch of yelling and screaming going on between Caden, my son, and the plaintiff.
And Miss Larson.
Miss Larson, yes. And I told my son, I said, hey, you just need to step outside and let me figure out what's going on here, and I'll be right out. I tried to talk to Mark. Mark come out of the room.
Who's Mark?
That's the father. He was being very disrespectful, he said, and he said he wanted him to leave. I said, okay, that's no problem. I'll get him
Just
out
a
of here.
second. The father came out of the room and said, I want Caden to leave.
Right.
And did he leave?
When I come and got him, we left. Yes, we did.
And he walked out the front door.
Yes, he did.
And when he walked out the front door, he passed the plaintiff's car.
Yes, I believe so.
What do you mean? You wrote it in your answer, sir.
Yes, I
so
did.
the answer
Yes,
is
I did.
yes.
Yes.
And you saw him do what to the mirror? Don't minimize what he did. I would have slapped him upside the head if I saw him take his hand and knock off somebody's mirror. I really didn't mean that. I don't believe in corporal punishment.
Amen.
And later today.
What do you think that I think of a person who says, okay, I'll go with you to this very, very sad time? Someone who I've been close and intimate with for months, but it's going to cost you $900.
Morgan Larson claims Chris Bumgardner's 16-year-old son, Caden, vandalized her car.
Now, you saw him do what to the mirror?
Push it in.
Okay, very good. Now, do you have photographs of the pushed-in mirror?
I do.
I'd like to see it.
Okay, one moment.
Just for my own curiosity, you knew that it was wrong for him to touch that mirror.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and if what you say is he just pushed the mirror in and all it had to do is be, you believe, to be clicked out?
I believe to be clicked out.
Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you say to him, don't touch somebody else's property? That's what this is all about.
Well, I
Your
believe
temper.
I did say that to him.
Just
I
a
said,
second.
Don't put your
Well,
hand.
then why didn't you pull out the mirror if that's all it was? If you say the only thing
because
wrong
she
with the
was
mirror is
coming
that it has to be pulled out, why didn't you do that? You didn't see him touch the mirror.
No, I did not.
You were there.
She was right behind us.
She didn't see it. You saw it. So my only question to you is, if you saw it and it was that minor thing, and you know what it is, either you can click the mirror in and then you pull it out. I'm always afraid to click it out that I'm going to break it.
Exactly.
You're not suggesting that anybody else touched this mirror to damage it. No. Okay, let's see. What did he use on the mirror, sir? What did he use to hit the mirror?
I believe it was his hand.
When you say you believe it was his hand, did you see what was in his hand?
He had nothing in his hand.
Did his hand get bloody?
No.
Okay, Kevin, would you turn these over to the defendant, please, and get from the plaintiff an estimate for the damage?
That's not what...
Well, they ripped it off there.
Well, yeah, clearly, because that's not what it looked like when I seen. Because when he walked by, he just simply... Okay. And I said, now, Caden, that's enough.
So you had a $500 deductible on your insurance?
Yes, I did.
And you had it fixed?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you paid $442.74. Good. How long did it take them to fix it?
I would say about a month with the parts being on back order. And
but you had the use of the car all that time?
No.
Oh, of course you did. Okay. Just want to see what you have for a car rental.
Your Honor, I don't understand this car rental part of it. I've been without a mirror before.
Sir, you're not allowed to drive without two mirrors.
Then there was one in the cab as well. That's two mirrors, isn't it?
I don't know what you're asking me, sir, because at some point you just have to take the car, and let's say it takes a day once you get the parts. At some point you have to take the car in and you're without a car for a day. Well, then you can either be without a car for a day or you can rent a car for a day. I'm not giving her a rental for a month. I'm not crazy. You know, there's a certain amount of inconvenience that one endures when somebody else vandalizes a piece of their property. And that's part of the punishment.
Well, I understand.
Yeah, I'm glad you understand. Don't minimize what he did. I would have slapped him upside the head if I saw him take his hand and knock off somebody's mirror. I really didn't mean that. I don't believe in corporal punishment.
Amen.
I don't think you needed 15 days to fix this.
I didn't think so either.
Well, I certainly don't think so. But you're entitled to a day's car rent. So I put that down as $200, including everything, $642.74. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I didn't think that I needed to pay the whole $1,300 out of pocket.
I'm just glad someone finally held them accountable for what they did.
The mirror, I was walking past it and just hit it. Bam, you know what I mean?
I finally am getting reimbursed for the money I had to pay.
I knew what I was doing, and when I did it, I did regret it after I did it, you know what I mean?
I feel like some people need to control their children better.
It's also a sign of the times that this father did not own up to what he saw.
I will say he was on the more responsible side of parents than some that we've seen here. He said, I said, Caden, what are you doing? This is not how you act. This is not how you behave. So that I almost appreciated. But he didn't take it as far as you or I would have liked.
As far as knock at the door. I know this is hot. My son did something wrong. I'm going to pay for it.
Yep.
Whatever it is. I have to come into the 21st century kicking and screaming.
I'll try and help you as much as I can.
Xin chào mọi người, chào mừng mọi người đã đến với những vlog tô màu tranh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình sẽ cùng nhau tô màu cho bức tranh về nàng công chúa Bella. Mọi người hãy cùng mình bắt tay vào tô màu thật đẹp cho bức tranh của ngày hôm nay nhé. Chúng ta bắt đầu thôi nào. Trước tiên thì chúng mình sẽ cùng nhau tô màu cho bộ vải nha. Bộ váy thì sẽ có màu vàng nhé. Bây giờ thì mình sẽ tô mái tóc màu nâu nha. Sao rồi? Mình sẽ tô cả phần tóc ở phía dưới nữa. Mình đã tô xong phần tóc, bây giờ thì mình sẽ tô đến phần bông tai. Mình sẽ tô hoa tai màu cam đi. Mình sẽ tô lên cả phần ở phần chiếc váy, đính hạt ở chiếc váy. Cuối cùng thì chúng ta sẽ tô ngốc màu son để hoàn thiện cho bức tranh.
Có cái mùi.
Xong rửa xà phòng.
Rửa rồi.
Hết chưa? Và bức tranh của mình đến đây cũng đã hoàn thành xong. Video của mình đến đây là kết thúc rồi. Cảm ơn các bạn đã theo dõi video này của mình. Hẹn gặp lại ở các video tiếp theo nha. Tạm biệt các bạn.